to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, please stand, please. Sheila Anderson, the county treasurer, will lead us in a prayer.
Please pray with me. Precious Lord, thank you this morning on behalf of all those gathered for all our abundant blessings. We give you thanks for life itself, for our good health, and for the energy needed to fulfill our callings. By your grace, we've been called to do this useful work. Grant us the wisdom and compassion to care for the citizens of this county. In the Lord's name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Sheila.
Yeah.
Okay, at this time, I would ask for nominations for the 2019 Chair of the Brown County Commission. I would nominate Doug Feldheim. It's been a crazy year, but you've handled it very well.
Second, Weiss.
Okay. Any other nominations?
I move nomination cease and we cast a unanimous ballot.
Okay.
Commissioner Feldheim. Second.
All right, I will turn it over to Doug, and now we need nominations for Vice Chair.
I accept the nomination for Vice Chair.
I would move Rachel Kipley. Second.
I have a motion by Pfeiffer, a second by Sutton to nominate Rachel Kipley.
Make motion nomination cease, cast a unanimous ballot. Commissioner Kipley, please.
Rachel Kipley is elected as the Vice Chair.
Congratulations.
Yeah, oh really?
Throw a round of applause, yeah.
Okay, if you want me to just start on the regular list, the minutes from December 27th,
You just go through your sheet after this.
right, we don't have enough time now until 9 o'clock to go through the board book, so do that later.
Well, I don't think we need to have all the people standing out there. As soon as we can get through that, let's go with it. So let's do the ones you...
Okay, with the minutes, there's a question on the plat of Prairie's Edge 13th edition to the City of Aberdeen. This is the plat that Dirk Rogers had a problem with the approach, and the motion was made for Chair Feldheim to sign for the approach. Inadvertently, this plat, I was given a copy with no signatures and no explanation that this was the plat in question. And I understand at the joint planning and zoning, the county planning and zoning, it was unanimous no vote for approval of the plat, and the city was a unanimous, did I say that wrong?
No, you got it right.
Okay, and the city was unanimous approval of the plat. Not knowing that the county planning commission had voted no, I brought it to the table for action, and the motion and second was made to approve the plat. I just want to make you aware of this in case you want to do anything else, or
Does that plat include the approach?
yes, it did.
Okay, because that's what was approved, was the plat with the approach.
No,
Correct?
the
By this
approach,
body.
the approach,
With the approach at 300 and some odd feet.
the approval of the plat was later. All they did was,
Approve the approach.
was the approach initially, authorizing Doug to sign.
We granted a variance.
Yep.
All
We
right.
granted the variance for the approach.
Now, the plat approval
The
was a
plat
separate
approval
action.
was a separate item that was here on the table December 27th, last Thursday.
Both of those two things have been approved.
The plat was inadvertently approved, not realizing the entire county planning has
Okay.
voted against it.
Okay, but at this point, that has been approved, and then the variance, which would allow for that with the approach, right?
The location of the approach, because it's less
Right.
than 500 feet
Okay.
from,
So the issue then is that the commission overrode what the planning and zoning...
Because we didn't know. I dropped
only
the
on
ball,
the variance.
and
On the variance.
On the
the vote
variance.
wasn't told to the commission of what it was, because we just failed to realize it was the same one that they voted against.
And so your question is filing that plat correctly right now, right?
well, I just want to make the commission aware that
Okay,
the planning board unanimously denied it.
right.
And without the commission's knowledge of that, the commission approved it.
Okay, so my question now then is, does that plat include that approach on it?
Yes, because
Okay.
that was the first step
Okay.
to the variance.
If it's approved, Chris, and everybody signed the documentation, is there really any
Should be okay.
room we can, I think we have to go with it now at this point, don't we?
I don't think you have to, but I think you can, and I think it's okay to do that.
The planning commission oversees them, and then it gets forwarded to the county commission for recommendation.
That's what I thought.
The city submitted the plat to the auditor's office to get on the agenda, but they didn't notify her whether there was a denial or a recommendation on that plat. They just brought it over and gave it to her. So that's kind of we don't have too many recommendations or denials. Normal procedure is the approval process coming forward.
What are your thoughts, Scott, then, as far as the,
I mean, before Scott answers that, I think the right way to do it is to put it back on the agenda, make sure all the commissioners know this is the recommendation from the planning commission. I'm sure it's not going to change anything, but if you didn't know what their recommendation was, it's kind of hard to go. Can we put it back on, Max, for
Okay.
next week?
Okay.
Yeah, it shows some respect for the planning and zoning board is what it does, absolutely, because they have, you know...
So do we need to make the minutes reflect that we didn't act on it last week? Or no?
Well, did you act on it? I
Yes,
guess
Yes, we
Yes,
acted
we
on it
did.
last week.
And approved it.
So this
I
would be a
make
correction
motion
to the minutes.
amend that, yeah. Back that out.
Okay, this would be a correction to the December 27th minutes if they do any action today.
Because it was approved, the exception for the approach has been approved.
The approach was a separate issue.
Right, but it was acted on. and
Yeah,
approved.
but we're not doing anything
Through the
with
right
the
process.
approach.
Right.
What she's saying is the plat, because we didn't have all the information, she's gonna change.
The approach approval is still there.
To reapprove the plat.
Right.
With the, okay, I'm good with that.
Is 1 week going to mess anything up?
Pardon?
Do you know if 1 week's going to mess anything up for anyone?
My office inadvertently signed the resolution, and I don't know when the city, I believe, acted on it Monday night, December 31st, so they probably will bring it over to file, which will trigger the annexation of the back portion of the lot.
I'd put it on for next week. We got 6 days.
It will affect the taxes, though,
Yes,
because if
yes.
they go past the first of the year, then they're required to pay another year tax.
Scott said they can amend
So, I mean, if you just want to go with what was done with the information, and
I think you can.
what's it gonna change though?
It's not going to change anything
No.
unless you take the planning commission's recommendation that's on your agenda next time.
And if we do that, then where's it at? I mean,
It's probably stuck right back where it was. Whether it's on the dirt bid or
if you want to approve the December 27th minutes
As is.
as is, only with the approval, put something in this motion approving them, recognizing that,
You could do that. I mean, Dennis brings up a good point, but we also got to realize the planning commission voted against the variance anyways. So we've kind of went through all of that with that meeting, and I think we talked about it for a good 20 minutes. They probably denied the plat because they had the same opinion from before with the area, I'm assuming.
What was the reason why planning and zoning did not approve it? Does anybody know?
The plat?
Yeah.
The plat, I don't know. What was the reason for the plat?
Vader, wasn't the plat, it was because the board members were upset they hadn't seen it before. It never made it to them prior to,
And the city had already ran through annexing in the property, and the legal description of the plat hasn't even been filed yet. They rezoned it, and the legal description hasn't been filed yet. Then were the questions that they brought up that, get the cart before the horse comment was made.
This was that whole discussion we had when Ron Wager was here. And essentially, I think the commission decided the issue between the county and the city with this whole joint jurisdiction is going to be held against this one individual.
It just reinforces the need for a Brown County Planning and Zoning Board to be able to have a seat at the table with the city on these issues.
And we're working on it.
Yep. But for this issue, I think we almost have to just let it ride.
Well, I don't think that planning and zoning realizes the commission hasn't overridden them. It's the fact that we weren't aware of what was happening. I mean, had we known that, I mean, it would have changed that. I would hope the zoning, county planning and zoning would understand that. Without our knowledge, much like their knowledge didn't have it, that's why they rejected it, was kind of because they didn't know about it. Well, we kind of fall into the same category. We didn't know what was going on either, so that's a very good point that we need to get something done between the county and the city as far as some kind of a operating system that we both know what's going on. And I would understand that. I don't know that at this point in time, with what's been signed and what's been approved, I don't know that we gain anything by putting it on next week.
No, we can't.
The only thing you gain is the argument that it should have been on the agenda and you should have known about what the planning commission did, but I agree with you. You can leave it on there.
so let's just roll with it, and can you relay to our committee the circumstances around it and why that we didn't know, and that we're working on a bigger solution for all of these things.
Commission got blindsided just like the planning and zoning board.
So, if you'd like to make a motion to approve the December 27th minutes, and whether or not you want a notation in regard to the plat.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. I don't see the need to make a notation. Second, Weiss.
We have a motion by Sutton, second by Weiss, to approve the general meetings for December 27th as they were. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to go on to our next item on the agenda.
I need to read this notice. There are quite a few individuals out in the hallway. And I have put copies.
Buddy,
Okay. We received quite a few written comments.
Morning, Bill.
Should I just read?
Morning.
Welcome, Dennis.
Morning. Morning. Come on in.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Don't trip over the power.
Might want to plug that.
We're gonna fix that. Morning. Morning. Morning, Jeff. Good morning. How are you, Bruce?
No, I'm not going to read them all, no.
Not serious.
Morning, how are you? Good. Morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
All the way around.
Morning. Morning. Good. Thank you. Morning.
Yes, I checked right before I came in.
Yep.
You're all in here. I'm just going to read the
Come over here.
and then, the names of the people that have written comments.
No, I wish I would have.
Once again, full house. Good morning, happy New Year to everybody.
Move a little bit farther in, there's still some people in the doorway.
At this time, we'll have
Room for
Max
two here.
read the legal description or the legal notice that was printed in the paper.
Notice of public hearing, exchange of land with private owner. Notice is hereby given that the County Commission of Brown County, South Dakota will hold a public hearing at its regular scheduled meeting on January 2nd, 2019 at 9 a.m. in the Commissioners' Chambers Courthouse Annex concerning the proposed exchange of land currently owned by the county for land currently owned by a private owner as authorized by SCCL 6-5-4. The county property to exchange is the southeast quarter of Section 23, Township 124 North, Range 65 west of the 5th PM, except Richmond Lake and land deeded. The property the county would exchange for is owned by Edwards Legacy Family Limited Partnership, and it is the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter of Section 1, Township 123 North, Range 64 west of the 5th PM, Brown County. The County Commission also intends at the January 2nd, 2019 meeting to consider and take action on a resolution regarding the exchange of land with private owner. If unable to attend the public hearing, persons wishing to submit written comments regarding the proposed exchange of property should send those comments to the county auditor. I will read the names of the people that the commission received written comments from. Dan Thayer, Rusty Merkel, John Dezen, Patricia Black Tracy, Stephen and Levon Schaefer, Alan and Joyce Beckler, Jim Campbell, Steve Herther, I've got 2 copies of that one, and 2 copies of that one. So those are the written comments that have been...
Well,
There were additional.
There were
just
additional.
Not 2.
Right, and if I could, too, this was given to me, this is a list of people that I believe are unanimously opposed to the land swap as well.
Okay, well, I received many emails, and some of the emails, I guess, we probably, as we looked at the deeds, there were some comments made that this land was deeded to the city and the county with the intent of being public use only. You know, our deeds don't show any of that, so I guess what I would ask that is, if anybody has anything that's written or clarified from the Richmond area, I would like to see that, you know, and I would entertain other comments. You know, what we find is that there isn't anything written in our deed that we can see in the deeds office, and I guess I've had comments that this is what this land originally was set up for. If somebody has something in that, I
do.
Okay, I guess that's fine at this point. I want to clarify that first, because we weren't aware of that there was anything out there.
I guess I'll sit since you guys are all sitting.
Yeah.
My name is Ken Dulick. I spoke before the commission back in 2007 on this exact same issue. I know Mr. Fikert was here. How many alders were here?
Just those two.
Those 2. And you're the new ones back on today?
Yep.
Interesting how that works. At that time, the city thought they owned half the land. They were pushing for a sale. The county was going along with it, and I came in and spoke to you. So at that time, I gave all the deed restriction documents to the commission. I was unclear. Rachel Kipley, did you ever find those documents?
I haven't seen that.
Well, I did research down in the dungeon in the basement and found the documents that I'm going to share with you again today. So I'll be brief, but I do want to go over kind of the dates and the facts of what happened. On September 7th of 1934, the state of South Dakota sued Anton Milton Berger. Milton Berger didn't want to sell the land, or he wanted more money for it, it's unclear, than what was being offered. As a result of that, the jury awarded the property to the state for a sum of $3,200, and I have that right here. The court finding for Section 23 and 24 that we're talking about in addition to some other land that is now state park south where the campground is, where the sewer plant is, as well as the youth camp. And this is what the document says, for the purpose of conserving runoff water and creating a lake thereon, in order to provide a place for the propagation of game and fish and public recreation. 1934. On March 24 of 1937, Anton Miltenberger had died between those two dates, and his son was involved, and this is in document number 2, in the land transfer to Alfred Lindbo, who sat here as the head of the Brown County Commission at the time. Mr. Lindbo traded land, that piece of land, with the Miltenberger estate, subject to the easement of rights herefore granted to the state of South Dakota. So that's document number 2. I just have numbers on them, on that. That was March of 1937. Alfred Lindbo and his wife deeded the land to the county and the city. That's part of number 2. I actually have 2 documents for that comment. In June of 1937, Alfred Lindbo and his wife gave the land to the city of Aberdeen and county, subject to the encumbrance of record. So that's 1937. So he donated the land, and if you can think back, and I realize most people here are too young to remember, including myself, when you talk about the 30s is when people were into, we need park spaces and we need open lands for the public, and the states, federal government, all the county entities throughout the country, many of them anyway, got involved with setting aside public land for people to be able to get out of the big city. In July 13 of 43, the city agreed to let the county own the land and actually paid the county, or the county paid the city for the land to get out of their half of it.
When was that?
July 13 of 1943 was in the American News.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have that document. That was the issue that got resolved back in 2007, that it was confirmed that there were some documents found. I know at that time, I don't have those. On March 7 of 1969, the county sold Game Fish and Parks those portions of Section 23 and Section 24, which are south of the lake, for park purposes. That sale was for $1. That's where the campground is and the disc golf, or campground and the sewer plant area, that whole area. So back in 1969, your predecessors had the foresight to see that the land was valuable to the public and to allow the state of South Dakota to develop it for park, which is what it was donated to the county for. I've lived in a lot of areas of this country. Some had the foresight to make lands available before they were overpopulated. I grew up in suburban Chicago, and Cook County did that, having a very extensive park system, and all county lands open to the public. We could walk there from where I grew up, even though we were in a heavily populated area. I lived in San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio at the time was the 8th largest city. They never set any parkland aside. There was not a playground my kids could play on when school closed because they would lock the gates at the local school. Everybody drove an hour and a half to the nearest state park, and you'd have thought we were still in San Antonio. There were so many people on those trails. The houses that are on the lake have really greatly extended the amount of land, tax base that the county is getting. And those people are now using that land on a regular basis. I can see the end of the trail from my house. My son is here today as part of his Eagle project. We built that trail, and it's used not only by people that just live there, but people park at the ends of those trails all the time to go walk, bike, horseback ride, and any other things that they want to do out there. There's a nice park bench. I don't know how many of you have been out to the park bench? Okay, so about half of you. Back when this came up in '07, Adam Altman was the city attorney, and he said, that the land doesn't provide any benefit to the county besides a headache, and it certainly doesn't provide any benefit to the city. That is a very narrow-minded thinking of what the land is. And that is quoted in the newspaper, which at the time before the meeting occurred. You know, there's a lot of people coming out using the lake, and I know there's a lot of people here want to speak, and I don't want to dwell on that. I wanted to make available again, if you wanted to make copies, even though the county made me pay like $2 a page to copy this, I would give them to you again, but I don't want to be here in 10 years discussing this again. And I don't understand why we're here today, when in '07, I thought we had clarified this. I know you went into executive session after I spoke at that meeting. I think there were like 3 people in this room during that meeting compared to what we have today. So I'm glad to see some of these are my neighbors. A lot of people don't live on the lake that are here today, but they utilize it. If the county does not truly want to own the land, please donate it to the state, like you did on the other piece, and then be done with it. Sell it for $1. I understand there was a sale offer made to the state, but that offer was at $700 and something thousand, which was supposedly the appraised value not too many years ago. And I don't know if the park manager is here, if he's available to address that. But, you know, there's a trail out there now being used. It's used for fireworks. I think that there should be a sign that the county put up at a minimum calling it Alfred Lindboe Park. I know I had mentioned that before. And in closing, Mr. Lindboe would roll over in his grave if he knew that the land he donated for park purposes was sold to a developer and had houses built on it. I contest that that would be an illegal sale for that purpose, but interestingly enough, I made that comment in '07, and it was in the Aberdeen newspaper the next day. I did not know there was a reporter, was one of the other 3 people in the room at the time, but I still say you got to put your mind in the mindset of people in the 1930s, that they were concerned there was too much development and they needed places for people to get away from it all. That is a key location on Richmond Lake, with park on across from it in both locations, and people come there as opposed to Marina because there is so much less development on part of it because of the public land. I do want to make a comment, and I'm not going to delve into it very deep. The county sold land a few years ago on Elm Lake. It wasn't a lot, it was some, but that land was also donated to the county in 1937, and there were deed restrictions that it was to be made for park purposes. I did not know about that. I remember that coming up, was that 5-7 years ago? Somewhere in that time period. That was an illegal sale. I do not know why the commission cannot do deed search and find these documents. I have the documents right here on that. That was donated to the county, just like this piece, for the public use. And at that time, it got sold, and apparently the public wasn't aware enough of the issue to oppose it. But I don't understand how that can get slipped through the cracks, and now somebody owns that, when in fact, it should revert back to the original owner if the county didn't want it. That's in the deed restriction. That if it wasn't used for the intended purposes, it went back to the family and the heirs of the people that donated it in 1937. John Tsolis and his wife, Christina, Tsiolis, are the ones that donated it at that time. And that was for the development of Elm Lake, for building it, and all the land above the high water mark was to be used for park purposes. So there's more to that, but we're not here for that piece today, but I just wanted to point that out. I was not aware of that issue very well up until I started preparing for coming back today. You have any questions for me? I know there's a lot of other people who want to talk. I will make this available if you wanted to have someone copy, and I only have 1 copy of these documents.
I'd like a copy also. We can take care of that.
Okay. You got somebody to copy them?
You bet.
I'll share the original.
Thank you.
Let's go along with Ken. First of all, Ken, thanks for all the information. I was on
the city council, when the land sale, we actually asked the court to come in and decide who owned the property, approximately 12, 15 years ago. And at that time too, what I took away from was that land couldn't be sold because of some of the things that we had found. I have talked to the new city attorney. He's trying to get me documents. He couldn't get me the documents. We talked about that time, and we did figure out who did own the land, and the county does own the land. Something that I do have to add along with that, Kent, when he was talking about the sale, I have the minutes from the meeting of when the cities sold the land to the county, and this is in the minutes. Upon the resolution's adoption, Brown County filed petition with the county auditor setting forth that it would be in the benefit of the public, the county to acquire the half interest owned by the city of Aberdeen. And I won't read it all, but I'll read the important parts. When I was on the council, when you put the word park in there, that's sacred. You can't do anything with it. It's not saying you can't sell it, but from my understanding, we do have a couple attorneys in the room, it has to go to the vote of the people, and it's a 2/3 majority. And I think I'm correct on that. First of all, it should never be sold. And the intent here is this land was never supposed to be used for residential lots, ever. That's what the original intent was. I don't care how it was recorded, there are documents out there that specifically say that. When I was on the council, I had to make decisions just like you guys did. I changed my mind when I might have felt one way, but when people brought me something, I was, even though my own personal feeling might have been different, I changed my mind and I voted the way the people want me to because I represent the people, or I did represent the people. It does go on to say, subject to easement rights thereafter granted by the state of South Dakota for lake purposes known as Richmond Lake, so that the whole of said property could be used as a county park. The word is park. And whereas the petition came on a regular hearing before the Board of County Commissioners, Chambers of the Board of Commissioners, August 5th at 10 a.m., pursuant to the order, I'll jump down again, and once again, it is mentioned, after consideration, evidence of the Board of County Commissioners are satisfied that it will be in the best interest of the public that all of said property acquired by the county for use as a county park. It was mentioned twice in that. So this has nothing to do with trading land. This comes back to what the original intent of this property was. You can talk about appraisals and land values and land swaps all you want to. This land, we shouldn't be here today, just like Ken said. This land was never, ever, should have been even considered being sold. And at the very least, I agree that if the county doesn't want this land or want to utilize this land, give it to the state. Give it to where it should go. I live out at the lake too. We've been there 50 years. Drive by this piece of property all the time. It's sacred. I think it's one of the last places that is true prairie grass. And he's right, wildlife. This is used 365 days a year, not just 1 week out of the year. So it would be a horrendous mistake if the county does this. Think of what future people giving donations to the county or the city, no one's ever going to do it again because they can't trust, and you have to put trust in yourselves, trust in these documents of what the original intent was, and the original intent was for this land never to be sold. Thank you.
Was that from the 1943 transaction from your city minutes?
You know what? I don't have that particular date. This was.
You said from the sale. When was that?
August 5th. It doesn't say the date on it, but it came from August 5th of some year. But this is talking about the sale of the city property to you guys.
And that was in 2008.
Yeah.
That's the recent one.
No, this one must be very old.
I think it's 1943.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if I open up for discussion for everybody, we'd be here till 4 o'clock this afternoon. I think at this time, I have my thoughts on what I think I want to do. I don't know what the other commission wants to do, if we want to listen to these people's concerns, or if we want a motion at this point in time. People got work to go to. I know where I'm at with it. I'm looking to entertain a motion.
I would make a motion that we table it, leave it as it is.
Table it indefinitely? Or how do we want
I
to say
think
that?
so. In light of all the information that we've gotten, I think we'd be making a mistake to do anything with it.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Piker, a second by Sutton to table the land swap indefinitely. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you! All right! Thanks, guys! Government in action!
I do want to thank Mr. Edwards. We reached out to you in addition to a number of other people exploring options. It was not like you came to us. We were looking for options there. So I just want to say thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Bill.
I want to say something real quick. So in 7 years, you're not back here again having the same fight.
Well, I was doing the whole deal.
I let everybody vote without giving this information because the county commission has already had this.
Can you make sure that the record is
The county can legally sell it, in my opinion, in the Register of Deeds opinion. When you go through the documentation, I appreciate Todd pointing out all of that information from city minutes, but city minutes are city minutes. They're not what was recorded in the deed. So in 10 years from now, when this issue comes back up, we're probably going to have this discussion again, and maybe there's a different state's attorney that'll have a different opinion. I doubt it, because when you actually read the deeds, it talks about just the portion of the lake, the property description. So the portion of the lake that's been flooded and is currently a lake is what's for public use. In my opinion, and I think a lot of other folks' opinions. But I appreciate the commission's vote. I think they did the right thing, but at the end of the day, I think the county can still legally sell it. I just wanted to make that known, so in 10 years, if it ever comes up again, that was my legal opinion.
Can I make a point?
Yes, sir.
I agree, but I hate to disagree on some of the things. It still goes back to sure things were not recorded properly.
I would agree with that.
And by law, you're absolutely correct. But there are documents out there, legal documents from the county, weren't recorded properly, that are very specific on what the intended use was. I'll go back to that. You can also, too, I think today, clean up this deed, put the correct thing on there, put an easement on there, making what the intention was. And I think legally we can do that, correct?
I think that's
The
fair.
county can do that. I'm asking the county to come up with a resolution to clean up this deed and do what's right and make this designated as parkland. Work with the state. I know there's ways you guys can work with the state to get some revenue off this. It'd be great to get some revenue off that. They're the ones that should be taking care of this land. They're the experts. The county's not. Because what scared me, if this sale did go through, what would happen to the youth camp? Would that be next? You know, so I'm glad you guys made this decision today, but I think we're not done here. It's tabled, but like you said, I don't want this coming up in 10 years. I want something very strict about what the intended use was for this land, and the only intended use is putting something into the deed that makes it very restrictive. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Hang on just a second, folks. Got a thought here. There's a reason for the county wanting to do this, which was to get the 40 acres next to the fairgrounds and expand that. I understand there's a backlog of like 200 campsite families that want campsites at the fairgrounds. So there's a very good and very sound reason for the commission wanting to do this.
They could still buy your land, though, Bill. They don't have to trade. They don't have to trade this land.
Please.
Sorry.
We're not going.
Okay, so what if we were to trade
as we've talked about here, and then as the owner of the new Richmond property, we would then gift that to permanent park use.
Awesome.
Wow.
Love it.
Awesome.
It would clear up the issue. The county would have what they want and need, in my opinion. I thought it was a good idea for them to do that. That is a beautiful property out there. And I have no intention, I had no thoughts of what was going to happen with that property. I mean, I didn't have any preconceived ideas. But I do think that it is more suitable for what you folks want it to be. And I would be willing to do that if that makes sense to folks in this room.
So you would sell it to Game Fish and Parks for $1?
I would, well, for $1, no or nothing. We would gift it.
Okay. That would be awesome.
It may be easier to have the county gift it to the state, and then you gift your land to the county. So you'd want to talk to a tax person on all of that.
As part of a transaction. But you'd be willing to do that, Bill?
I would be willing to do that, Mike.
Okay.
And the whole idea behind this proposed land swap was, obviously, as Bill stated, we were looking to get a few additional acres adjacent to the fairgrounds, which we all know the week of the fair is the only time we need it, but we still need it. So it was one option that we explored. This, to me, puts a whole different light on the subject, and I think it would please everybody in the room. We'd get what we originally were out to get, some additional acreage for the fairgrounds. I think it's a win-win, and everybody would be happy. But we'd want to make sure that the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed going into it, so that we knew that land would remain the way it is into perpetuity, and we would still obtain the necessary acres at the fairground. I think it's a win-win for everybody.
Can I ask you a question, Bill? Just for clarification. Kent Larson, appreciate you being here today. Explain again what you're thinking. So your land that borders the county fairgrounds today, you would donate that to the Brown County, is that correct? Or would you sell that?
I would trade with the Richmond property.
Okay.
And then I would gift the Richmond property to whoever, probably Game Fish and Parks or whatever. Whatever would function, accomplish the purpose that we wanted to accomplish. Have it forever set aside as a refuge in a park.
No strings attached.
No strings attached.
And I do have one point to make too, and this is what I learned about reading South Dakota law and something that might benefit the state, or not state, excuse me, the county. If that does happen, the way you want this to go is in order for the county actually to get, and it's not going to be a lot of money, but the county does get something from Game Fish and Parks, if I'm not correct, on land that they own. Lakeside use is, I don't think they get anything. So I guess something for the county to look at. Make sure that you know who's getting it. And I'm looking out for taxpayers too, that I think if you gift it to the right department, the county still can get, it's like in lieu of taxes, something as far as a tax base out of that property. It won't be much, but it's going to be something. Just consider that. I think it was explained to me there's restrictions. One happened to be lakeside use. Parks definitely are non-taxable. So make sure it goes maybe into a game production area. And these guys know probably better than I do.
I work for Nick Cochran, Conservation Officer here in Brown County. I work for the Wildlife Division. Robert Teachout is the Park Manager out at Richmond. He works for the Park Division. The Wildlife Division does pay taxes on our game production areas. So that is, in parks is going to be different because of the different funding they get. But when we do purchase land or get land donated to us, we do pay the taxes on that on an annual basis. So.
And I think everybody in this room doesn't care. They just want to keep this land basically the way it is. And also too, you know, the sad part about it, up until, you know, when I lived out there as a kid, I didn't realize we could access and utilize that land. and it's sad that the other land around the lake, I knew that the county owned it, but it's almost like the youth camp. You know, it's I think some people don't realize. I walk through there, even sometimes, you know, the gates are closed, whatever, but it's public land. People should use that land, and people living out there, they know it's very expensive, and it sounds kind of corny, but there's very little land left, and I do want to see the average public know that this land is available for use, so.
I'll look into it on our side too, as far as the gifting of land, to see what it would take for the Parks Division to take that and what the legal process is. So we do it one time, we do it right. So I'll make some phone calls when I get back to my office and see what that process would be, and I'll work with Nick too, so we both know what's going on, and you know, whether the park side has acquired it or whether the wildlife acquired it. You know, we'll definitely do some research and make sure it's done right.
And I don't want to drag this meeting on too long, but I live up by Fairgrounds there. I live on North Penn Street and walk my dog up that way and everything. And so that the property you guys are looking at are with the sheds there, the brown sheds, correct? And that pasture, that old pasture land. If you guys remember, you guys have filled in the wetlands on the Fairground side and have drained most of the water onto that property. So I don't know what your intent is, but it is a very wet, boggy area. You know, almost the entire year. Even on dry years like this, it was still wet at a period of time. So I guess you guys should, as a commission or whoever in the county, should look at that. It's not going to be ideal areas to make, you know, unless you're doing a lot of dirt work and stuff like that, to put a campground or parking lots and things like that, because all the work you guys had to do west of that property on filling that wetland in and doing all the projects you did up at like Willow Dam with us and things like that, there is some things that you will go on.
There is some dedicated wetland there, and we're painfully aware of what we have to go through in
Yep.
order to
Nick,
accommodate.
just a little addition to that, less than half of that 40 acres is
Specifically
professional
designated.
land.
Okay, that drainage area.
Yeah, there's 23 acres that's probably the highest land in the section. Plus, the reason it was wet wasn't the overflow, it was a well, a flowing well that is now plugged.
Okay.
It does not flow now, so you notice it hasn't been wet the last couple of years because for that reason, but at any rate, that's, it would certainly be useful for the county, very useful for the county.
So what would be the procedure to start the land trade exchange? Would that be a commission involved with the attorney and the state? And
Well, how we got to where we are today is South Dakota codified law dictates what we need to do with public property. We went through the appraisal process, got an appraisal for each property. Mr. Edwards paid for the appraisal on his property, the county paid for our appraisal, and then we put notice in the paper of this public meeting. So we've already jumped through those hoops, and we would secure the necessary paperwork, you know, guaranteeing what Mr. Edwards just agreed to, and then we could proceed and probably have another public meeting stating this is exactly what's going to happen. The land swap will take place if that's what we decide to do, and then Mr. Edwards will have his documentation gifting it to whomever. But I think there's a lot of process left to go through to determine which entity, parks or wildlife or whoever is going to end up with it, or even the county. You know, maybe he would gift it back to the county. The county's owned it for 80 years, so what happens if the county just continues to own it? So there are some possibilities that we need to work through, but I think based on the action here today, it will remain exactly the way it is the way I understand it.
So between Robert and Nick, you guys can and will talk to your folks in your respective departments and communicate with Mr. Edwards and with us.
Okay, is there a person on the board you'd like us to communicate with?
Chairman.
Okay.
And also
Chris, one comment too regarding who ends up with the ownership of the property. I have a lot of respect for what Game Fish and Parks does in our state, in our county. But I've been working for 3 years with this commission on this land swap. It has been an arduous process. And they have been very conciliatory. I'm a little disappointed, Dennis, that you would step in and make that motion, given the work this commission has done over the last 3 years. However, that aside, my preference, all things being equal, that the county retain the property. It wouldn't have to be. I mean, if there's a compelling reasons to have GF&P own it, or another entity or whatever, but simply because I've worked with this commission, you've been trying very hard, and to get something we all thought was good for the county. And so, if that were to be possible, it seems to me that the county ought to end up with it, all things being equal. If there's compelling reasons otherwise, I'm entirely open to that.
You know, thank you, Bill. And I'm not going to speak for everybody here, but me personally, I don't care how it happens, and when it's ever comfortable for Bill, as long as we feel that there's a restriction, and we won't be back here in our lifetime, our kids' lifetime, eternity. Whatever, you know, Bill's being very good here. And from what I see, if this happens, it's going to be a win-win no matter if it's the county. The county's going to win both ways. We're all going to win. We're going to get what I think what public sentiment really wants. Even if the county does maintain, I think, there again, I don't know enough about park law. There are ways that these guys can oversee at least the management of that area. Am I correct there?
Correct. We do have,
at the very least,
we do have a relationship with the city that the city owns Willow Dam game production area. It's owned by the city, but Game Fish and Parks manages it as a game production area. So we do have those agreements, and like I said, the city...
I don't think there's anybody here that has that problem.
And we both take part in that up at Elm. We maintain the boat docks.
And it's perfect.
And the
I mean,
restroom up there.
It's incredible what you
even
guys
though
do
it
up there,
is
so...
a wildlife area.
Kudos.
But I guess the county would get a tax base if it went
I don't think in
route.
that particular case they would. They might have to, actually, they might have to pay the county some type of a lease, maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look into the...
It's irrelevant, I think, anyway. You know, to me, what matters is making Bill happy. I think Bill's going to get what he wants in the end. The county's going to get what you guys want in the end. You're going to get your property. And the land will stay for eternity the rightful use. Correct?
Chris, I understand it.
If the land would come back to the county, depending on how the swamp would go around, is it possible to tag the deed as that the land can never be sold again, Roberta? Can that actually be done?
You're talking the Richmond land?
Yes. Can that be tagged as never being able to be sold at once? If this comes out for your satisfaction, is there a way to tag that deed that this land can never be sold?
If there's a restriction on the deed, that's the problem with the old deeds, is the restrictions on those deeds only talk about the land that was flooded and 12 feet above the high water line.
Okay.
It doesn't address the whole property. But if when you record the new deed, there is a restriction on that deed for the use of the land and it's recorded, then it'll be held up in court.
Has this land ever been surveyed?
It's unplatted at this point, is my understanding.
Right, it's unplatted land.
Well, and there again, that's what I was going the city attorney for, was I thought we did a title search on it, and I can't believe we didn't. And I would think the judge would have made us do that. And that's the sad part about it is, you know, just like you guys, records sometimes don't get put where they're supposed to.
And there was a title search done on this property now. And as the state's attorney has said, they do have the authority to sell the property.
Well, I think that they do, but
As it stands.
but even on a title search, these type of
Notwithstanding the information you provided.
these type of documents would actually come up on a title search, correct?
They should.
Yeah.
Roberta would know a lot more about that.
So...
Well, and they would certainly going forward after this transaction.
Right.
Then there wouldn't be any question what's going to happen.
Because the new deed will reflect whatever
Correct.
the wishes of the commission are.
I'm just saying everything that was read here today is the property description for the part of the lake.
Yep.
It's got water on it, not the piece of property that is being discussed here. Completely different property.
Right, and I think we're beyond that now. That's why, I think we've found that there's enough of information back there to find what the original intent was. It just wasn't recorded properly. We all agree on that. Let's go on from it. Let's work with Mr. Edwards. Let's try to get this done due diligently, and go on from there. And hopefully, you guys will have a piece of property by the start of the fair. And, well,
Maybe another 3 years.
No,
I think we'll expedite this process.
I think everybody in this room, we need to keep our foot on the pedal.
I guess I wish that Mr. Edwards had made his offer, would have had an opportunity to make his offer before I made my motion. And I guess if it's possible to change the motion, to just table it on the circumstances of the people coming in and let the process move forward, I don't have an issue with that.
Well, let me jump in on that. I think your motion's fine because today is notice for an even land swap.
Yep.
Which is what state law requires. That was the process we went through, and I appreciate, I think this gentleman said this is how the process should work, and it is. Everybody shows up, comes with their facts, and they voted it down. I think Mr. Edwards' offer, the cleanest way to do that is if he wants the county to keep it as is, we keep it as is. We try to work on cleaning the deeds up if that's something we can get done. But then if Mr. Edwards wants the county to have the land by the fairgrounds, it can be gifted that way, and we probably never need to be here again. That would be the easiest way to do it.
Agreed.
Chris?
I'm just going to say something here. Bill, you and I have known each other for a lot of years, and most of you, if not all of you, have no idea how much this man and his wife and his family have given to the community and various other charitable organizations and things like that in this state to better not only our community, but our state. And that I commend you for. And Bill, though we may have been not quite on the same sheet of music this morning, I just want to be, thank you for what you're thinking doing here. It might not be a bad idea, ladies and gentlemen, to call another public hearing when the details were worked out and run it by everybody a little bit, or contact a few friendly attorneys around here. There might be one or two, and they can kind of review it too.
I think once the matter gets down the road and the particulars are settled, I think that would be on a commission agenda. And I think it would be open to the public once again, once we have those facts and once it's determined. We want to be transparent on this. That's why we're here today. And, sometimes bad things happen to the commission, but this is one of the times bad things happen that have turned out to be good. So it's a plus for starting off 2019 compared to last year.
Well, I'm going to go have lunch at the millstone and get my taxes done.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like the way that guy thinks.
Oh, wait, I do.
Just quickly, as a board member of the Richmond Lake Association, thank you for what you guys have been doing for our roads out there.
Yeah.
Really great.
Good morning. Good morning.
Doug, I need it.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Good morning, guys.
We'll have a 2-minute break. He spent a lot of hours. Out of our break, we are live once again.
Thank you for what you're
Thank you,
doing.
Bill.
I'm looking forward to this. I think it will be good for the community, the county, everything.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Morning, Gene.
Morning. Each year we have to submit our assessment intentions to the state. Helps them determine what our assessment factors will be, our equalization factors, and that sort of thing. Has to be out by the end of next week. In previous years, we've run it through the commission. You've approved it, what have you. Last year we did not. I think it's probably a good idea to get back to at least that you guys at least see it and it's out there and people know what's going on. First off, our ag assessments, we're going to start out 2018. There's going to be no neighborhoods. That's first and foremost. Not that I think there's anything wrong with neighborhoods yet, not that I think they're not illegal, but I'm having a hard time getting them approved and getting through the county, or getting through the Department of Revenue, so we're just we're not gonna play that game.
How'd you get them approved in the past?
Submitted them.
Submitted them.
And got approval.
And got approval. So, we're removing our ag neighborhoods. There are adjustments based on physical characteristics of property. Here again, that's the case that's never really been scrutinized by revenue before. Typically, they're for topography, terrain, access, what have you. Those are getting looked at a lot closer this year when we had our audit done. Our audit was done December 11th. We have not gotten any response from that yet, but a lot of questions about those physical characteristics that we made adjustments for. The fact that all of those have pretty much been made through our township boards has carried a lot of weight, and we're going to really emphasize those adjustments being made through the townships. Probably work with the townships, get them more involved than they ever have been. In fact, we have a presentation to township boards coming up on the 29th of January to kind of go through how assessments are done, invite our township boards to go through the process and learn how calculations are made, and there again, try to make sure everybody's aware of what we're doing.
What time is that?
That will be 1:30 in the afternoon on Tuesday the 29th.
Thank you.
There will be letters sent out to the township probably this week. They're in the works here.
Have you done that in the past, Gene?
We have not done that in the past.
1:30, you said?
1:30.
You might want to provide notice that we may have a quorum there.
We do meet with townships every year when we hand out the assessment books after the assessments are done. After assessments are sent out, when they come out and pick up their assessment books, we meet with townships and the boards and go through the rules and regulations for how boards are to operate and everything, but we're going to actually put on a presentation as to how ag land values are calculated and where those numbers come from. Here again, the point 3 here, you know, those adjustments we make per parcel based on topography, terrain, what have you, are being questioned a little bit this year by Department of Revenue when they came through and did our audit. They feel that we maybe are putting too much emphasis on actual use. To my opinion, probably nobody knows the highest and best use of that parcel than the actual operator. So I think actual use, highest and best use often are the same thing. Department of Revenue feels that highest and best use of soil-rated properties is soil productivity, or soil production, or crop production. A lot of times, you know, in a vacuum, Beosha soil in a vacuum probably grows pretty good corn. Beosha soil sitting where you can't get to it isn't raising anything, and revenue doesn't take a lot of consideration into how actually the highest and best use of a parcel is. They look at the components of the parcel and want us to go that way. There's our little discussion between us and revenue right now. We've never really had that discussion before because we've never really delved that deep into our assessments. This year they kind of are. We're going to stick with highest and best use of the components is what they are. Beosha soil is Beosha soil. In the right circumstances, it's going to grow 200 bushel, 300 bushel corn. In the wrong circumstances, its highest and best use is not crop productivity. There's where our discussion is with revenue. There's some things coming up as far as SDSU and you're on the Egg Task Force talking about actually use, most probably use, highest and best use. Some of those things are coming up. And there again, like I said, if townships make the adjustments, they carry a whole lot more weight than we do. So that's why we're going to get townships involved as much as we can into ag land assessments. And that will help us get through Department of Revenue's questions a lot better than that. We do have some areas through Mansfield Slough, Ginger Water, Mud Creek, up along Stan Lake, where we make some soil-specific adjustments. They don't have nearly the problem with those because we've taken a soil type that's consistent and has the same kind of problems through an area. And as long as I can change that one soil type the same through a whole neighborhood, or I hate to say neighborhood, but through a whole area, and it's consistent with how I'm doing it with all of the same soil type throughout, they don't have an issue with that. So it's a case where sometimes I have, crop rated soils on one parcel that's getting an adjustment, and crop rated soils, the same crop rated soils on another that's not getting adjustments where they have trouble. But there again, that's due to physical characteristics, and like I said, as long as the township boards approve that kind of stuff, they seem to be much more okay with that. We're going to continue to try to get our townships to work as hard as we can through that discussion. If they approve all my adjustments, and at this point I'm counting on that they do, you should be at full value. You should be getting an 85% factor. If they don't approve my adjustments, I still plan on carrying them through. We're looking at adjusting about $100 million of value over $2.1 billion of assessed ag land value. So a matter of probably less than 5% difference one way or the other. So even if they don't approve it, that's just a matter of whether to adjust my equalization factor from an 85 to an 88 or what have you there. So that's what I intend to do. That's what I'm sending out to Peer, and we'll kind of see how it goes once our discussion goes with revenue and once our audit gets done and some of that kind of stuff. Non-ag. Been a lot less discussion about non-ag. Most of our non-ag statistics are through residential property in the city of Aberdeen. It carries a little over 70% of our sales, and therefore a little over 70% of our statistical analysis. So the fact that residential property in Aberdeen is all up on DevNet and running and good to go, we're in good shape on our non-ag. More and more of our non-ag is getting put on non-ag commercial. It's getting put into DevNet. That's going to have some considerable changes as we get going in there, as we come across the physical things we're looking at when we were doing our new reappraisal. Russ has been working on that for the last couple of years. Been kind of slowed down a little bit here with this year, but he's kind of kicking it back into high gear again. We'll let him visit about that a little bit.
Looking at the commercial side, taxable commercial properties in Brown County, it looks like as of right now I got about 57% entered in, running out of DevNet. We were probably right around 33-35% last year, so we got about 22 to 24% additionally entered for 2019. So that's probably still going to be a couple more years till we're all the way in and have all them properties in and running out of DevNet. But in the meantime, we've been updating all new growth, everything else that comes with a new year. So it's going well. We've been able to utilize some land tables and some other things within DevNet to actually make our adjustments, kind of streamline those a little better. And as we keep working into that, we should be able to utilize our CAMA a lot better every year additional. So it's going good. Just takes time. A lot of properties. So I think as an overall, we have about 2,200 taxable commercial properties in the whole county. So we're over the hump with most of that. So.
Good. Small acreages, Richmond Lake, is kind of still probably our fastest moving market. Again, we're going to make some adjustments on small acreages around the county. Richmond Lake hasn't been touched for about 3 years, and that is pretty much all in the CAMA system. If we're at Richmond Lake, we can probably expect about a 10% increase in assessed values at Richmond Lake this year. As just we'll put that out there, you may as well know it too.
So we just had them all in.
Reward we get.
But,
providing a park.
yeah, but yeah, that's one of the areas that's all,
I don't think we should.
that's all over
Just kidding.
and good to go. Again, small acreages, we've kind of really, been putting a pretty big discount on small acreages a long ways from Aberdeen, and got some sales coming in on those kinds of parcels that have really gone sideways on us here in the last year or so, and that's, you know, I know there's a distance from Aberdeen, but those small acreages seem to be ones that are really suddenly seem to have a lot stronger market than we were accounting for. And then in so doing, and keeping up with that, we haven't touched farmhouses for quite some time. And there's going to be a little adjustment on those, actually maybe quite an adjustment in some places. Our farmhouses are being worked out of our new CAMA right now, so that in itself is going to make some differences. And then on top of that, as our small acreages keep moving up, and they're being assessed about twice of what our farmhouses have been assessed at, it's hard to make that argument with the small acreage person who says, hey, my house keeps moving up, yet this guy's farmhouse hasn't moved in 10 years, and you know, the difference in value isn't what it costs to plat it and all that stuff. You can't find a differentiation as to why one is moving, one isn't. And we're going to move farmhouses a little bit this year, and we may hear something about that.
I think the difference is choice versus necessity.
Sometimes.
If you're small out in the country, you're choosing to be there.
Yeah.
A farmhouse, you have to be there.
You have to be there.
That's the difference.
That's the difference, but it's also a case where that farmhouse can turn into a small acreage with a matter of a plat and a survey and whatever, and you can't get that done. I mean, it doesn't cost you the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 difference it is from one to the other to get there. And that's getting to be a harder argument to defend to the small acreages as to, you know, my house is the same as that one, yet mine's assessed at 60,000, or that one's assessed at 60, mine's assessed at 150. It doesn't take in $90,000 to make his the same as mine is. So there's a case where farmhouses are going to have to move, or we're going to start losing cases as they get going forward. There's no market to compare to, so statistically it virtually doesn't matter. It's a matter of an area of trying to defend it somewhere down the line. Going back as far as that ag land assessments that we're going to see, we're going to see some increases in a lot of townships with the neighborhoods going away. One of the things that's going to come up this year, and we're probably going to hear about, is that right now our ag land assessments are the highest they've ever been. They're going to be the highest they've ever been in 2019, and yet the 2017 income information is the most recent that's in this window. Is going to be the lowest in that eight-year window. So there's a case where, you know, the productivity thing is what it is, and that's going to be one of those things I'm sure we'll hear at county equalization this year.
And that's because the neighborhoods are going away?
That's because...
No, the bigger issue is that we're at the top of the bell curve with the 8-year Olympic average in valuation. Using that, quite frankly, I've characterized it as a deferred potential income tax. The way it's set up, it takes 2 years to get audited numbers into the equation, then it's an 8-year Olympic average with the high and the low dropped off, and 11 ramping up to the commodity prices of 2012 have got that so skewed so high right now that for taxation purposes the value of ag land, especially in this county and several others, is so high because that's still driving that number, while commodity prices are the bottom, hopefully, of the bell curve right now.
too big of a, too sudden of a drop of those commodity prices don't fit into that Olympic average. That's where the problem is. Probably, that is something the legislature probably should do, is shorten that time frame maybe to 5 years or something, might help that.
Here again, I'm not in a position to promote or not promote one or the other, just to implement what statutes there are. But I have spoken with Mike, regarding an idea that being on the task force he maybe would be interested in, is to have an either-or scenario where you can take the 8-year Olympic average or the most previous 4 years to determine what your top dollar is, and then take whichever is the lowest. It's the same as we have on a CPI or growth or some of those things. There's a lot of either-or scenarios in property tax, and in doing that, you could still slow an increase as values are going up, and you could still react to a decrease faster as values are coming down.
Which would be the case for these 2 years.
For these past 3 years, yeah, you could actually use the last 4 years of income and come in with a lower value than if we'd used the 8-year Olympic average. Meanwhile, it was going up, it would have been advantageous to use the 8-year Olympic average and spread it out. There again, I don't know that anybody's seen that other than Mike, and that was just an idea.
I've shared it with several members of the task force. It's just an opportunity to consider, so thank you.
So,
So what would be the reaction of the Department of Revenue on that?
That's law. That's not within their discretion, even though they may have too much, but that's another conversation.
But if you were to lower that property range due to the 4 years, that would be less, then your taxing factor could jump from 85 to 95.
Well, no.
Department of Revenue, don't they dictate what they want from revenue from
that
downtown?
would have to be a statutory thing, and that's probably we're not in the right place for that discussion. But that's just one of those things that Brown County, I think, is probably brought to the table a little bit. And here again, I'm not in a position to make statute or promote statute or lobby for. I'm in a position to, they tell me what to do and I implement it. So, that's pretty much what we have in a nutshell. First off, I want to get back to letting you guys see what our assessment intentions are every year. We have done that in the past. We've submitted them in the past. We've brought them to the commission in the past. Up until last year, we didn't, and I think last year kind of showing us that it's maybe a good idea that we bring it out and let you guys see that, what we're submitting to Pier. And Pier, again, doesn't really matter if you agree, disagree, whatever, other than the fact that you acknowledge that you've seen it, so that it's out there as public record, that it's open and transparent and on its way.
I would make a motion that we approve the Director of Equalization Brown County assessment intentions for 2019.
Do we approve it or accept it? I think we accept it.
I don't think it really matters.
Recognize that you've seen it.
Right.
It doesn't matter because you can send it no matter what.
Right,
like my
right,
last
but
year.
So I think that...
And just one thing to be clear, I don't know if Elise has taken notes, but if she took notes on it wasn't submitted last year, that had nothing to do with the lawsuit. I always want to make sure I clear it.
Correct.
Because part of the judge's ruling on this most recent summary judgment is there may be facts that the county hid this from the taxpayers, which I strongly disagree with, but that's a different issue. That's why we made that argument in court. But I believe Gene wasn't the director, Mary wasn't the director at the time, but the director at the time just didn't submit.
Yeah.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, so I apologize, I'm not trying to split hairs, but I don't think it's something that we simply acknowledge the review of
Well, I
this
don't think you
report.
approve it either.
Right,
Because he doesn't have
exactly.
to submit it to you. So
Right.
you can just say.
Exactly, so we've received it.
I don't even think you have to vote.
Right.
I'll rescind my motion.
Thank you. Sorry, not to complicate
No,
things.
it doesn't matter.
I just wanted to present it to make sure you guys knew it was submitted.
Yeah, well, appreciate that.
And I think Gene has submitted every year since.
Wouldn't
he's
you
been-
rather have
Yeah,
a
since, I don't know,
motion
since
acknowledging?
2009.
I'm okay with that,
Receipt of it?
that I'm okay with, yes.
I've got to change my motion to acknowledge the,
Receipt of
The intentions.
the
assessment
2019
intentions.
assessment plan.
Yep. I'll second that, Weiss.
I have a motion by Sutton to acknowledge the Brown County assessment intentions for 2019. We have a second by Weiss. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There's little red lights on so the whole world knows anyway.
Good enough.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Thanks,
your
Russ.
time.
But it helps if it's in minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we know.
I'd be happy to discuss some of the rest of it, but not right now.
Okay, that concludes our agenda items. We have a number of items that Max will have to go through for our...
Mr. Chairman, can I request just a 2-minute courtesy break?
Sure.
Please.
We will have a couple minutes of break.
Thank you. I already took mine.
Session after a short break. Max, would you...
Okay, claims?
I'll move them.
Second.
Moved by Fikert, second by Sutton to approve claims. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
The HR report, and there was, Joe Adam was able to work Monday and I believe today. And can we add to the HR report to adjust the termination date for Joe Adam to January 2nd?
You choose. Works for me. I'll
Okay,
make that
and
work.
then you need to discuss the main, the salary increases that were on the HR report.
You can pass it around again. Oh, yeah, that was, it was built into their budget. That was the question on the sheriff. That was my big thing, is I don't remember the conversation, but I did ask, and they did build it into the budget. So if it's in the minutes, we must have.
Yep.
So one of the questions I would have at this time, I don't believe it's personnel, with Joe leaving us, and Joe in charge of our tax structures of our computer system that was designed by his dad. He's been the sole person operating that. What are we doing for our taxes that are coming up? Are there IT looking at hiring another individual and have Joe train them, or I think it's a crucial thing that we don't end up with just one person knowing the system and all of a sudden we got problems. I'm trying to do a little proactive here and find out what we are looking to do with this. The taxes are coming up.
Paul's been working with it too, obviously, and yeah, he just didn't want to open it up during the holiday, but we'll move forward on filling that position.
Okay, that was nice.
It's after the first of the year, so.
That's not going to be cheap bringing Joe back if we have another, but we need to get that person set and trained.
Right.
ASAP.
The 2018 payable 19 have gone to the printer, and we'll be mailing them out, the tax notices. We'll mail them out prior to the increase in the postage rate.
When is that?
Later in January.
Okay.
Buy your stamps now.
Okay. So that the HR part,
Right now, I let Dennis look through it before
Oh, okay.
I ask for the motion to...
okay. Just for a heads up for Dennis and Mike, the deputies were given the $1 increase and the investigators the $2 increase last April.
And that was due to the fact they couldn't find potential employees. They were having an awful time under their current salary of getting anybody interested in coming to work for the county.
And the city's still above us by a significant amount. Last I heard.
Yep, that's right here too.
So we were sending people to get trained in Pier and losing them after a couple of years.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve the HR report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kipley to approve the HR report. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
There was an alcohol use permission form for Aberdeen Hockey, January 4th and 5th. They are selling malt beverages in the Odie building to be carried into the curling event in the expo building.
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Kipling, second by Piker, to authorize hockey to have an alcohol use permit. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And there was a request from Director of Equalization for their 2019 clothing allowance of $125 per employee.
I'll move it.
Doesn't that normally fall under the guidelines where the commission doesn't have to approve it?
No, it
I thought-
states in there that
Annual.
Beginning of
Yeah.
each year, you do an
Okay.
annual
there's annual
request.
improvement.
Okay.
So, question, is there, going way back, did they, is there an allowance in the county highway, budget for, shoes and gloves and?
Right, the safety equipment is in the actual, stated in the policy.
Okay.
The steel-toed boots, the
Gloves or
safety
whatever,
vests,
when they're
gloves, whatever.
dealing with tactics or whatever.
But, yeah, but if individual departments want clothing with, the department name on it, they have to ask annually for permission from the commission.
It's mostly for identification purposes, so people can see
Right.
that's who that is, as opposed to, I don't know who that is and what they're doing.
And the reason equalization wants it is because the fieldmen are out, or field people are out, and it identifies who they are.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a motion from Sutton,
Go ahead.
second by Weiss, to authorize the clothing purchase. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, now this one's to sign. Okay, do you want to grab your board book? The first page, two of your appointed officials have term limits set by the state law, and the county highway superintendent is SDCL 31111 for a 2-year term, and so Dirk's term would have ended December 31, 2018. So you would need a motion to reappoint him for the 2-year term.
So, second.
Moved by Kipling, second by Piker, to approve Dirk Rogers to a 2-year county highway superintendent.
And the next one is SDCL 33A122. This is for veteran service officer. It's a 4-year
Do I
term.
need 2 separate motions?
Yeah.
I didn't
We
vote on
need
the
to
other
act
one.
on the
Oh,
last.
I'm sorry.
Yep. All in favor of appointing Dirk to the county highway superintendent, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll go on to veterans.
Okay, sorry. This one is for a veteran service officer, Aaron Wahlberg's term. Actually, it expires January 5th, 2019, but that's just because that's when he was appointed January 6th at the organization meeting, and we could change that to the January through December if you'd wish to do that. Or else we can have his new term ending January 2nd, 2022.
Let's make it second, just to be consistent. I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Weiss, second by Sutton, to approve the veteran service officer, Aaron Wahlberg, starting January 2nd of 2019 for a 4-year term. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, nothing changed on in B, the boards appointed by the county commission. You restated this January 5th of 2017, but nothing has changed, the per diems or their terms of office or that, so you can just let that one ride. Under tab C, I have a new cert list, and also a Citizens Corps list. On the Citizens Corps, the terms that expired December 31, 2018, it's been recommended that they all be reappointed for the 3-year term. And the CERT members those are listed under the volunteers for work comp purposes. And for the work comp purposes, there's CERT, Citizens Corps, Dive Team, Fair Board, Museum, and 4-H Promotion Expansion. I'd like to wait a week to do that because we have CERT and Citizens Corps and Museum, but nothing from the Dive Team, the Fair, or 4-H Promotion yet. So we can do that next week.
We can do these now? Or you want to do them all?
I'll do all the volunteers, so the only
Okay.
one you'll do now is Citizens Corps.
I'll move approval of those that have expired.
Second. Would have a motion by Sutton, second by Pfeiffer to approve the Citizens Corp. to the terms that expire. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Excuse me, we're still gonna have Tom
I was just
representing law
gonna bring that up.
enforcement?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
yes, and also, change Tom Schmidt to Dave Lunsman,
Okay.
if you can incorporate that in your motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
The official newspaper would be the Aberdeen American News, Groton Independent, and Dakota Press.
Move them.
Second, please.
Moved by Kipley, second by Weiss to authorize the official newspaper of Groton Independent, Aberdeen American News.
As a matter of discussion, I really think we need to work on getting South Dakota law changed. I feel it's totally unnecessary to pay two hometown newspapers in the same community just because...
Did that law change?
Not that I'm aware of.
So we have to have three.
That's the way I understand it.
Yeah, but it
I
doesn't
think,
make sense.
but I think we need to change it. We need to work on changing it. That's just discussion on the motion.
Very
The
good.
three
Hog
were
house.
American News, Groton Independent, and
Dakota Press
Dakota Press.
in Groton.
Okay.
It could be, there could be some legislation maybe worded that, based on the population of the community where the two papers are. Like if it's a population of, say for example, 5,000 or more, or whatever, that, and there are two newspapers there that, and I don't know if you'd have to throw in their ownership.
I think they would argue against just the population of that as opposed to their subscription area they cover.
But I think there's a way that they could word it so that it would prevent us having to pay for two newspapers in the town.
That are owned
the
by
size
the
of
same-
Groton.
Not by the same...
They're not
company.
owned by the same people.
They're not.
Oh, no. No, they're completely different ownership.
Okay, that I guess that's right, now that you say that, I'm up to speed, yeah.
We'll work on that.
So did I,
Association.
I spaced off, did we have a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a motion, I was just
Typically, we-
discussion on the motion.
Okay.
And I think we need to change that.
So we had a motion by Sutton?
No,
No.
I had written down Keep
I did.
so...
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
You're good.
Kip Louise, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the tax deed process is actually a resolution. And it just states that
I need to excuse
Brown
myself
County
for just a minute.
Commission has, or Brown County has acquired tax certificates on property, and therefore the Brown County Commission authorizes County Treasurer Sheila Anderson to request the state's attorney and personnel to act as agents to process the tax deeds notices. So that would be a resolution.
I would move that resolution.
Second, Weiss.
Moved by Pfeiffer, second by Weiss to authorize State's Attorney Office to authorize the deeds, tax deeds.
Thank
What do
you.
you want, or?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Each year, the official bank depositories that used by the county treasurer need to be stated in the minutes.
I move them.
Second, Weiss.
Moved by Kipley, second by Weiss to authorize the bank depositories for the 2019 year. Do you have to name all them, or do we?
No.
Did the Warner Bank change, didn't it?
Yeah, we have a name change.
Well, I've got the name changes from
Okay.
Sheila.
Okay.
So this, I didn't update the book until you
Okay.
do your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, on page 6 are the commission committee appointments for 2019. We should wait until Dwayne gets back.
Or should we?
Ouch, whoa.
Hey, you've got 42 committees. Are you interested in all in weed and pest? Would you take that from me? I'm good with the rest of mine. I've been on weed and pest 6 years, and if somebody else wants some experience on that one, I would.
What's FSA representative? Is that Farm Services?
Farm Service, yes,
Okay.
we have to have a separate motion on that one, and for whoever wants it, because Tom was the designated person.
You'd be good on that.
Mm-hmm.
Would you do that?
Would I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
guess-
think they met much.
Yeah.
I think it was only
No, it's just,
if stuff comes up.
yeah, it's not very much.
And then that railroad one is once a year. I think I was alternate for it, yeah. But I think Tom maybe met once in the summertime with the city folks. There's only like 4 or 5 on it.
Mhm.
Union negotiations, that's in the spring? When do we?
We gave you 5 more while you were on, is that right?
Yeah, which 5?
Okay, we're on page 6, the commission committee appointments.
Okay.
Everybody else's name off, and just put yours.
So part, we need a separate motion for the FSA representative, and if I was hearing right, Dennis has volunteered to do that.
Second.
Moved by Weed, second by Sutton, to authorize Dennis Pfeiffer as the FSA representative. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, now you can decide on your committees.
Well, which one, if I take weed and pest, which 2 are you going to take in place there?
Oh.
He does remember.
We're doing some negotiations here.
So are you looking at Tom's list?
Yeah, yeah.
And were you looking at Nancy's list? Or were you just kind of waiting to see
Kind of wait to see.
What we're doing here.
I don't want mental health, they might keep me.
What exactly does LEP see? What are they?
That's basically the emergency response.
And how often are they meeting?
Once a month, the third Tuesday at 11:30 a.m.
Oh, so that's the same time as weed and pest.
Yes.
I'll take that one.
Okay.
That, the range fire. I'll take the rest of Tom's if you want.
So all the Toms except for FSA rep would go then to you, Mike, is that what we're saying?
If you're okay with that.
Well, I tell you what.
Well, whatever you want, Dennis, you can have.
Yeah. I guess I would just as soon keep the county buildings, union negotiations, rural NESCAP, and I'd take the weed and pest. I don't know, Mike, are you interested in railroad authority?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll take LAPC and railroad.
Yeah.
You can have all the rest. Doesn't bother me a bit.
And then add weed and pest to mine. So what I end up with then is county buildings, union negotiations, grow, NESCAP, FSA, and weed and pest.
Who wants fire suppression?
Mike said he would.
Either way. LEPC.
Oh. Oh, so Mike has LEPC, range fire suppression, and regional railroad.
Right.
Okay,
And I guess, I'd take the Northeast Mental Health. If they need to put another one on me, I would take that one.
okay, see, they have term limits, and Nancy's term was a 5-year term that expires at the end of this year. So it would just be a 1-year term
You can finish that out. Sure.
to finish that out.
And then get reelected for another 4
Yeah, and
years
then,
or however.
next January, you'll have to appoint somebody for the 5-year.
And it could be Dennis?
Yeah, it could,
Right, 'cause
yes,
he can
yes,
still
yes.
be
And it would
eligible.
be
Yeah.
same thing for
Okay,
senior
so Dennis
citizens.
is Northeastern Mental Health. We should probably have a separate motion on that one.
Second.
Moved by Kipling, second by Sutton, to appoint Dennis to fill out the 1-year term vacated by Commissioner Hanson on the Northeast Mental Health Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Well, good God, I'm on 6 deals, and that's too damn many.
Half of them don't mean much.
Yeah.
Some of them don't need it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Senior
Dwayne?
citizens, how old are you, Dennis? When's your birthday?
Yeah.
You can meet with yourself every day.
Well, I guess, sorry, I'd like to live for a little while.
The idea is to die young late.
Well, I tell you what, I went to a wake last night that'll, unbelievable. 54 years old, Todd Wag, unbelievable. Building was absolutely full.
Man, it's tough.
The one under my Glacial Lakes, I haven't never met with them. I don't know if that's...
Glacial Lakes Prairies and Tourism, is that where you're at?
Yeah. I've never
actually on that board.
I've never attended any of their meetings there. They're always down in Watertown. I don't know that.
They're scattered all over, but no, you can put me under that. You can try to scratch that one and put me on that.
Since you're on the board, you can be our representative and our eyes on the, ears on the board.
Honorary member, but they won't let me go away, so.
Okay, so, Doug, I got Sick Leave Bank, NECOG, Airport, Communications Council. Communication Council, I think the agreement says that it's the chair
It's the chair
and
and
vice
vice
chair. Okay, since, I'm just suggesting, since Mike took Glacial Lakes, the Railroad Authority, would that be,
Yeah, I got the Railroad Authority. Then I'll take Glacial Lakes.
okay,
I mean, what else is left hanging out there then? I'll take welfare. It's fine.
Are you looking for another one to put under Doug? Is that what you were looking at?
Senior
Yeah.
Citizens Board, there you go.
So-
Motion.
so Doug, you have Sick Leave Bank, NECOG, Airport Board, Communications Council, and Railroad Authority?
No, I'm doing
Lee says
Railroad.
railroad.
You're doing Railroad Authority.
He could be the alternate if he wants mine.
The
I'm
what?
the alternate Railroad Authority, if you're looking for another one to put under him. That's if Mike can't make it. So the one meeting a year, alternate for, it's really a good one.
Do they have lunch?
No.
Forget it.
Okay.
So Phil Time's the alternate then?
If you want it, are you okay with that?
That's fine,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know, Risk Management Committee, I don't know that are you just kind of doing that, Gary, with our risk in mind? I haven't done anything with Risk Management Committee. Just Mike says I'm doing it? Can leave it, but I haven't got anything about that. I think we all get it.
So did somebody take the union negotiations on Nancy?
Yeah, there you go, you can have that one. It's still up there by my name.
There were two union negotiations.
that.
Who's the other one? Oh,
Mike.
Nancy had one and Tom had one on union negotiation, that's why
But I think, isn't it, most of it's done through the state attorney's office, isn't it?
But you have to have commissioners.
Commissioners gotta be involved in making decisions.
You wanna be on that, Mike, since that was Tom's?
Been there before.
So we, union negotiations and...
Okay, read me your list.
I can tell you
And
stories.
Mine is the same, minus weed and pest and railroad,
Okay.
I believe.
Mine hasn't changed, this, unless while I was out of the room, you gave me something I didn't hear.
Well, I'm taking range fire suppression off the top, LAPC, and the railroad authority that Tom had,
Yep.
and then the union negotiation, either one of those two, and welfare, which was in Nancy's.
Senior Citizens Board,
Oh,
that...
Excuse me,
another
Max,
one-
and also take the Glacial Lakes, I'm sorry.
English Lakes, okay. The Senior Citizens Board,
When do they meet?
and I don't know how often they meet or anything.
Either.
But that, I've got a term expires 12/31/19, so that must be in conjunction with their...
Bylaws.
You can move it down to me unless somebody else wants it, I good either way.
You'd be the youngest person in the room.
Like you saying I shouldn't?
Well, you can bring a different perspective to the board. So Kipley on the Senior Citizens Board?
Sure. 1 year?
So who's Senior Citizen?
I'm gonna take it.
Okay, that
If
should
somebody
probably be a
nominates me.
motion too, since it's their board.
I make a motion to
Second.
approve Kipley.
moved by Sutton, second by Biker to approve Kipley to fill the one-year term on the Senior Citizens Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So I guess I'm on county building, union negotiation, grow, NESCAP, FSA, weed and pest, and Northeast Mental Health.
Okay. Dwayne, yours is pretty much staying the same?
I don't see any changes in mine that I've heard.
I've been on Fair Board 6 years. So if somebody has their heart set on Fair Board, I could give it up, but my hesitation is I get to be the cheesecake and pie person tester. But I feel like sometimes if somebody else wants to have experience on some of these, I should give it up, but does anybody have their heart set on it?
I wouldn't mind if I wasn't the chair, but being the chair, I don't think I
Okay.
need to get involved in the fair more.
Okay.
Sometimes at that point in time, you can get your hands full with the fair, and depending on what's going on in the chair, I think I'll bow out at this point in time, just for that reason.
Then I'm gonna be the
Let's
chief.
get back
I'm gonna
on.
be the judge then.
We're
I'm
judges.
not
We're
trying to
judges
get
together. And we also get to judge pallet,
That's true.
pallets now, so,
And I don't-
pallet submission.
Sounds good.
So
They
you're
build
still
things
on?
out of pallets. They use pallets to
Wooden pallets, they
decorate.
decorate them,
Yeah.
flags and stuff.
Okay, then I need a motion for the
Move it.
rest of them.
Second, Weiss.
Moved by Kepley, second by Weiss, to approve the commission committee appointments for 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, page 7, Dakota Prairie Museum Board. Okay, Gail Boardman, you would appoint her to the second term. And Laura Cramp, Casey Wiseman, Jan Erickson are off. To replace them would be Chuck Wilkie, Kathy Johnson, Alan Neville.
What was the last one?
Allen, it's Neville.
Oh, yeah, he's a professor now.
Move, please.
Second, Kipling.
Just for discussion, that you might want to check with Sue on that. I think Casey Wiseman was going to be a non-voting liaison just because of his connection with CVB.
Okay.
So just check with her. I believe that was what the
And if
motion
that's
was.
true, then I'll put him as a non-voting liaison.
Right, right.
Okay.
You can verify that with Sue, but I think that was the motion they made at the meeting. Good.
Okay.
We have a motion by Weiss and a second by Kipling to approve the Dakota Prairie Museum Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, page 8, we'll wait on the dive team because Dave Linsman didn't have time to confirm the claims, so we'll do that next week. Same with 4-H on page 9. Page 10, same with Fair Board, I haven't received those yet. Okay, page 11, I got an email from Kurt. He is recommending an increase in their winter storage rates to $10 a lineal foot instead of 8. This is still a lot cheaper than any of the other fairground storage rates in South Dakota. And that's the only fairgrounds rate recommendation he had.
I'll make a motion to approve Kurt's recommendation to go to $10 per linear foot for storage.
And the rest stays the same.
The rest stay the same if that's his recommendation.
From 8 to 10, huh?
Right.
Okay.
Second, Weiss.
Moved by Sutton, second by Weiss to accept the fairground rental rates effective January 1st, 2019, with the only increase being $10 per lineal foot for each unit, including trailer hitch and overhang. All links will be rounded to the nearest foot. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, page 12, we've already got the motion on that, that's naming Dennis to Farm Service. Okay, the Housing and Redevelopment Commission of Brown County, the new members correspond with the city and Housing Authority, and I received an email on that, and I'm not sure where it is.
Looks like we're all current except Tom Black.
No, that's an old list. The current list is Colleen Kelm, in fact, Sister Pat Prunty, Mike Young, Connie Klusler, Marty Cibola. You acted on this, I didn't write the date, but we did have a special motion for this last summer. And Marty Cibola's term ends December 31, 18, and he's agreed to be reappointed.
So all these other ones that are on here,
They're all gone.
Those are all gone, those.
Yeah.
So are those
And I
terms July now, or are they December now for all of them?
The what now?
The terms for all of them, are they all July or all December now?
They're all December now. We
Okay.
changed that also. Legislative audits, when they were here, I think we had a resolution changing this because they changed their name, so with the Secretary of State's office. So we had to update our agreement with the Housing and Redevelopment.
Okay. So
And
you've got a
at that-
completely different list with different dates than it is on a calendar year.
Right, yes,
Okay.
and I apologize, it's in the minutes, but I failed to give you an updated sheet for your book.
Okay.
You'll update that and get it to us so we can update our sheet here?
Yeah.
You'll
She'll
get that?
update all the books.
Yep, good.
I'll have these all updated.
Good.
So what you'd need to do is reappoint Marty Cipolla for a 5-year term.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Piker, to appoint Marty Sippel to a 5-year term on the Housing and Redevelopment Commission of Brown County. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The liquor licenses, page 15, I will update that because they were just renewed from January 1 to December 31 of 19. The malt, I believe I updated your book. That's July 1, 18 to June 30, 19.
Right, that's right.
Is page 17 still in there? Yep.
Yes.
That's the mental illness board. Question, with the new attorney contract, will Christie still be the mental illness board term?
It doesn't address it in the contract, so I don't know.
Okay, we can discuss that later, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't exclude her from being.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, page 18, planning and zoning board. Scott hasn't visited with his members yet, so we'll have to wait on that one. Range fire suppression, we've got that one taken care of. What's your next one, Lee?
Railroad Authority, that we've got taken care
Oh,
of. So it's 20.
Richmond Youth Camp rental rates.
okay. I need
21.
those. 21. Okay.
Kurt doesn't recommend any changes as far as you know?
Yeah, he recommended a change. Here it is.
Going back to 20 just for a second, I don't think,
Where's 20? Which one's that?
page 20, that's the Railroad Authority.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think Nathan Davis is, I think he got beat.
No, he's been Morris Gross. Here's another one that I failed to update your book on. So Nathan Davis is no longer there. It's Morris Gross. Okay, so you could do this one. Just replace Tom. And what did we do on the committee? Mike, okay. So that one's taken care of.
And Doug's the alternate.
On the right-hand side where it says Rachel, or alternate.
Oh, the alternate
Yeah,
is,
taking her spot.
you're the, okay. Okay. So on 21, okay. Kurt's recommendation, I would like to include a $25 facility usage fee to the youth camp rental schedule. This would be for weddings and other parties that just want to use the grounds, not the buildings. I've had wedding parties just wanting to get married out there and Boy Scouts tent camping out there, and currently we don't have a usage rate.
$25 enough?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
He doesn't say if that's per night or per event,
Can we call
Per
it,
day.
per day.
can we call it part of the cleanup, where it's 50 for the
Well,
lodge, 100 for the dorms, put X number for,
Well, it would just be a new category.
Facility fee or
Youth
property
camp,
use or something.
property use without building.
Just say outdoor use.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Outdoor use only,
Per day.
$25
Per day, per group.
per day. That's kind of tough on the Boy Scouts though.
Well, if you don't put per day, then I suppose somebody...
We'll be here for 6 weeks.
Yeah, somebody can hang out there for
Okay.
3 days for a wedding party too.
Okay, 25 per day.
Or 24-hour period, I don't know if it goes, 5 o'clock to whatever, noon or whatever.
outdoor per day use, $25.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Piker, second by Sutton, to authorize charge of $25 per day for outdoor use at the Richmond Youth Camp. All in favor?
Just a question on that before we vote on it. Should we say that excludes the booking fee of $100? I mean, is it necessary to get a booking fee? And
We
the
haven't been getting a
insurance?
booking fee, that kind of relates it.
Because it's in there
Okay,
prior to date of occupancy, it doesn't say that that's excluded. I'm wondering if,
So if they're gonna be out there and we're charging $25 a day, do we not need to state something about the insurance also then?
I'm just
Be
asking
liable.
because
I
we've
think
got a
we need
booking
to-
fee. And I think it should say it exempt from booking fee.
Yeah.
And the insurance requirement maybe, just so it's part of our policy.
And are all these people that are using the outside bringing their own porta potties and stuff, or are they using parts of the facility?
I believe there's a facility outdoors currently.
Oh, like a outhouse or something?
For just the public to use. And maybe we don't need it, I just looking at the booking fee.
Well, I think if we just put the $25 per day and we have nothing about covering insurance, that leaves us liable if something happens out there.
I don't know, I've never seen it before, so I have no idea.
Why don't we wait on that and have him come in if you guys are okay with that?
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, Gary brought up a good point. How is that different than the youth groups that are $5 per person if they're camping there? If you look above.
Yeah, I get where he's coming from, but we need to have a little more conversation
Okay,
on
all
that.
right,
just
I
for
will get
clarification.
on the agenda next week.
Can you send me a copy of that, Matt?
Okay, it's just a single sheet,
Can I get a copy of it?
yeah.
I just need a copy.
See, there won't be a lease. Currently, we have a lease for all the buildings, but for the single days, there's no lease agreement.
Yeah.
That's what we
Have
need to,
Kurt get in touch with
yeah.
Chris,
Yeah.
please.
You wanna rescind your motion?
Yes.
I'm not, I just scratched it out.
Okay.
For the regular, the other rates as is.
Okay. Page 22, that's South Dakota Public Assurance Alliance representatives. You'll probably have to change that in March, so Kathy will be the alternate.
Okay.
And I'm on that board, so if you want me to be the member, or Dwayne, you can certainly still be liaison if you like, I don't care.
Yeah, I'll still be the liaison that way.
Great.
Maybe we can make the motion today that Maxine would be the alternate until March, whatever,
yeah.
and then Kathy,
Sounds good.
that way it's taken care of, we won't forget in March.
Okay.
Would that work? I'll
Yep.
make that motion if that works.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kippley, to authorize appointing the new auditor Kathy,
March 4th,
March 4th.
and I would be
Max would be acting as
until
of...
March
that-
1.
March 1, Maxine Fisher as the alternate.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay. Okay, weed board. I visited with Chris Heeman, and Dwayne Jark term is up, and he has agreed to another 3-year term.
Move to approve Dwayne Jerk.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Kippley.
Can I include in my motion that we include to take care of it, to put Dennis Spikert on there at the same time? Or have we already acted on that?
Yeah, you acted on
Okay.
that earlier, so I'll
Then
update
just Dwayne Jerk
the
is my
sheet.
motion.
Yep.
We have a motion by Sutton, a second by Kippley, to approve Dwayne Jarrett to an additional 3-year term on the Weed and Pest Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, bonus days off, were you planning to do anything for 19 on that?
So April 19th would be Good Friday. And then I guess the bigger question is Christmas, if you want to change anything on Christmas, with Christmas Eve being Tuesday, if you still have the meeting on the 24th, or...
The middle of the month, it's middle of the week, it's a little tough to
Yeah,
have a bonus day.
it is.
But we give them Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a bonus day.
Friday after Thanksgiving and Good Friday, if you want to keep that the same.
What's the fourth fall on this year?
Thursday.
Okay.
19th is Good Friday. Yep. And the April 19th.
19th, you
Yeah.
guys want Good Friday? And the 4th is Thursday. So if you're looking for another bonus, that 5th.
Okay, yeah.
Everything else we should be able to meet on New Year's Eve.
We'd be the most popular people, right?
What we have,
So you're gonna meet on Christmas Eve then?
Might as well,
Okay.
unless,
Commission meeting on Christmas Eve day, is that what you're saying?
In the morning of Eve. Well, how many bonus days did we have last year?
3. You had Good Friday, day after Thanksgiving, and Christmas Eve.
I think that's,
But generally before that, you had 2 pretty regular.
I think that too is probably qualifies, I mean.
Okay. Sounds good.
Or should we give them the 5th of July? Is there a downside to that?
It gives them a nice long weekend,
It
doesn't
does
it?
give them a nice long weekend.
I guess, we probably need to clean some policy up on our bonus days as far as pay then. Am I correct?
Well, we better have that done before then.
So that's where I'm going with this, so I think there's
The what now?
we probably need to clean up our language in our bonus days as far as pay, as far as how that's done, because there's been some confusion, so.
The nice thing about the 5th is it's not the end of the month, so they're not crunched to get stuff done.
That was the weather one, that caused the big issue last week.
I think it spells it out pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you remember where it is, Gary?
Vacation.
Yeah.
Well, we have 2 bonus days. Do I hear 3 or do we have a motion?
I'd make a motion we give 3 bonus days.
I'll second it.
It's easier than giving a bigger salary increase. It's a benefit, for sure. I guess we should wait
Bonus
to see if
days
it passes.
have been designated to April 19th, July 5th, and November 29th. Do I have a motion?
I did.
she made a motion to
I'll second
include.
it.
Yeah.
I did, I guess.
Motion by Kempley to have 3 bonus days, and second by Fikert. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Max, on page 24, the rationing board,
Well, those are for reference because we haven't done that for a long time. There's all kinds of boards that kind of
they're there, but they...
went away, but I kept them for reference.
I see Tom Fishback came on there.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
And like, Lower Crow Creek and, City Net, that's
The only time Lower Crow Creek will get active is when they get flooded out
flooded,
again.
yeah. Communication Council, that's pretty much moot point now. So it's just reference for historical purposes.
Okay.
Let me see. Do you want to have a motion on the Communications Council just to, restate the, last year we did move by Kipley, seconded by Hanson to reinstate commission appointments to the Communications Council, Chair Feldham, Vice Chair Kipley per agreement. That should cover it, correct?
Well, the agreement states that in the
Yeah.
communication council. The communication
so
agreement
we don't
states
need
that it
that.
should be the chair and the vice chair.
Okay. We need the resolution for the designation of deputies. SDCL 7720 mandates this, and currently the auditor, 1 chief deputy, 3 deputies, 1 part-time employee, treasurer, 2 chief deputies, 5 deputies, 1 part-time clerk, register of deeds, 1 chief deputy, 4 deputies. All extra help hired by county officials must first be approved by the county commission.
Any reason to change any of that?
What?
Was there any thoughts on Did anybody request more or change, or is it?
I
Okay.
think that's pretty
Move
much,
it.
yeah. I mean,
Second.
Moved by Kipling, second by Sutton, to accept the designation of number of deputies and auditor, treasurer, and register of deeds.
yeah. And once Kathy's on board, if something changes, you can always amend the resolution.
Sounds good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The investment policy, now therefore be it resolved that the Brown County Treasurer is hereby directed to invest Brown County public funds at the highest rate of interest possible at said time on available monies at financial institutions as designated by the Brown County Commission.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Biker and a second by Sutton to approve the investment policy the way it's written. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The interest policy, state law allows income from deposits and investments to be credited to either the general fund or the fund making the investment. Currently, so that we're not doing a journal entry and splitting this interest, we put it all in the general. And then it's up to you if we do an operating transfer to the funds. Several of them are mandated by state law, and the other ones, the money is so minimal, it's up to you. I don't have the final numbers, but the biggest one would be the landfill, and then highway, communications council, you have to give them their interest, and I think the Register of Deeds, modernization and preservation, you have to.
So can the motion state we use the interest except for statute designated areas?
Well, one thing about it, the amount that would go to those small funds is so minimal, and like emergency management, that you might as well,
Currently, they're going general fund,
yes.
so we can make a motion to have those go to the general fund and accept those dictated by statute, which are mandatory to go to the department.
Okay, so you want the operating transfers, okay. The money is deposited in the general, but we have to give it to the departments at the end of the year.
For
But
an
you could
operating
do an
transfer.
operating transfer out of those departments back to the general. That's what you need to determine today, if you want to take any of that money back.
So you have them set up to go to the account that they're supposed to?
No. We do that as a journal entry at the end of the year. We don't do it every time there's a receipt.
Right.
It all goes in the general fund, then we do the journal entry, disperse it to, I've got a formula with all 12 months on it, and it's
You do it once at year end?
once a year. at
All of
year
them,
end.
including
All,
landfill? Okay.
including the landfill. What you have to decide is if you want any of that money to come back as general fund revenue.
How much are we talking about?
Less than 1,000.
And that includes all of them? You're talking all the...
Some are mandated by law.
No, but what I'm talking about is the amount of money, it's $1,000 interest money on all those
Total.
various...
That would come back to the county if you decide you want it in the general fund.
Yeah, it's not per...
Okay, like, okay, if I remember correct, I don't have the total interest yet until they're done with Monday.
Sure.
Okay, my preliminary figures showed that the general fund will keep 16,000. That landfill would get like 1,500. The modernization and preservation, maybe 120. Emergency management was 110, somewhere in there, and the beef plant, 123, I think. But
So for accounting purposes, what's easiest for the auditor's office?
just to give it to the funds and not operating transfer for it back to the general.
Do it what's simplest.
And that way there's no question.
There's no
They
question.
are getting their
They are getting their
allocation
interest.
of the money that was in the account for a period of time.
Right.
Fine.
Per codified law.
Yeah.
Just do it that way.
It's just that in the past, you decided that you wanted to keep that interest because you got that option by state law.
It doesn't amount to that many dollars.
No.
total. Sounds like
And really, with the land-
25,000 would be a
yeah.
stretch.
The landfill, it's kind of good, I don't want to say PR, but good relations to give them that extra interest since we have tapped
They're fun.
their fund.
Well, it's an enterprise fund, and,
Yeah,
it simplifies the accounting because you pool it all together, and actually it
Right.
generates more interest that way than if they were separate accounts.
Didn't we do
which would
that
be a
one time, a
nightmare.
long time ago, with township money that they paid into the weed board? It seemed to me like there's something where the townships, if the township money can go direct back to the weed board budget too, rather than through the general fund.
I don't remember, that'd be before the consolidated general.
Yeah, but no, if you have the numbers for this purpose, and it's easier just to allocate it back to each individual
Right.
department based on...
But I have to wait for the treasurer's office
That's fine.
to finish their Monday.
I would just assume we do that for what trouble it would be.
Give
in
it
order
to every
Right.
fund, however, and then I'll have the numbers for you next Tuesday.
We need
Do
administrative...
you want a motion on that?
Yeah.
I'll move it.
Second.
We have a motion by Piker, the second by Sutton, to take the interest and designate it back to the department.
And that's by state law, it's just that we're not going to operating,
Okay.
transfer it back into the general.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, the expense policy, and as far as I know, state, the reimbursement for meals from the state has not changed. The breakfast, lunch, dinner, in-state is $6.11.15, out-of-state is $10.14.21. The mileage rate, you've been using 47 cents a mile.
That's the same as state.
Could we just leave everything the same? I'll move that we leave everything the same, that's the
Second.
same.
We have a motion by Sutton, second by Kipley, to leave the expense policy for mileage and meals the same as previous year. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Expense policy for election officials. The only possible election other than a special, if one is called, would be if the city and the school have a election in June. Currently, the rate is $2.10. We did get that bumped to $2.50. And if you want to wait and do this motion, I can leave a note for Kathy to set these rates after she's on board. That's fine with me.
When did we go from 210 to 250? How long was that done?
We did it mid-year last year because with the e-poll books, switching the vendors those 3 years, now we're pretty set with our vendor, and it's been going real, November went very smooth.
So being it was done last year, do we really need to revisit?
You have to set it every January.
Why don't we just set it the same it was last year? I'll make that motion, that way it's done for the year.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Sutton, a second by Kipley, to authorize the election of $250 for election officials.
Yeah, and then there's some smaller ones, $15 per hour for absentee vote center officials working on election day. They come in and track the absentee ballots, open them, put the stamp on them, and get them in the can ready to be counted that night. And it depends how many absentees there are as to how long they're working. So we thought the $15 per hour was fair for them. And then there's attendance at the election school is $20, and then we pay the election worker who uses their cell phone. We have to be in contact with those vote centers during the day. And then the mileage, we set, last year it was minimum mileage at 5 miles for the superintendent that brings the the supplies and voted ballots back to us election night. And that's all in one motion, if that's acceptable to Dwayne and Rachel.
Yep.
Okay.
We're good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, that's all I have today.
Tax deed notices.
That's it, guys?
You did the tax deed notice, that was this resolution.
Okay.
Yep. And abatements, I thought we'd have some and we didn't have any in the packet today.
Is Mark coming over yet? To get sworn in? Mark?
Yeah, give him a call, I need one.
Okay, I guess Gary, do you have anything else for the commission?
No, we're good.
Yeah. Scott, anything further? Scott, do you have anything for the commission that you want to bring up? Just, we're kind of out of our agenda items and just kind of...
Well, I guess, it's been brought up a couple times in discussion about what's called the 3 mile area. I'm trying to get that name changed in reference in our area for, let's call it joint jurisdiction, because, my other cities aren't 3 mile like Aberdeen, so I don't want to call everything 3 mile all the time. It's just a joint jurisdictional area. But, there's been a lot of concern from the public and the commission, the planning commission. We want to be more involved, so we're starting the footsteps, I guess you might say, in the direction of having some things changed. So, didn't know if anyone had any questions or anything you want to add to that.
Who are you going to assemble on that particular board or that group? Or is there going to be somebody appointed to that, or how is that going to go down? I mean, as far as...
We're working on all of that.
Oh, okay.
We actually have a meeting right after this.
Okay.
About all of it.
Okay.
And I'm staying for it. Cliff's coming over because he's been doing some research on it. But if another commissioner, as long as we don't have a quorum, one other can sit in on that, whoever wants to. And then as
So
we
does
get
it,
things rolling, we'll keep everybody in the loop.
So, now, and I know there's a meeting, I think, Monday night with the city commission on their long-range plan of the draft that they have. How much of this is there, does that, and I haven't had the opportunity really to look through that draft, but how much of that during that meeting, is any of this stuff going to come up that you're...
Shouldn't yet.
It shouldn't at this point. Okay. And then the other thing, and this is strictly rumor, but I've heard that there will be an attempt to make those lines of the 3 mile limit more, how would I say it, more specific? In other words, it wouldn't be as jagged?
There was one meeting, and there hasn't really been much discussion on that other than that one meeting, but...
Okay. Does it have to be 3 miles? Could it be, do all cities that...
That's a state
that
statute by size.
Well, but what does the state statute say? Does it say it has to be 3 miles? Or could it be from 1 mile to 3 miles?
That's agreed on by the parties when they first set it up.
But was there official action taken on that particular issue to designate to the city 3 miles?
That's what we've been going through for the last, couple months.
Okay.
Nothing's clear.
Okay.
But every city's different. I mean, you got 1 mile with Groton or whatever it is.
Groton's a mile, Warner's 1.5 miles, Frederick's a half
That's why
mile.
I'm saying, wouldn't this be a perfect time if there was an agreement, let's reduce this distance, let's cut it down to 1 mile. Why does it have to be 3 miles?
Well, what I'll tell you is I think most of the cities, Watertown, Brookings, Sioux Falls, I think they're all 3 miles. There's I believe, a population number in the statute that talks about all of it.
Okay.
That's why it's 3 miles.
Okay.
Say cities.
Yeah, we need to talk about cooperation between city and county, and hopefully that works out.
Good morning.
Morning, Sheriff.
I think it's important that we continue on that path, Scott and Chris, and try to get some of this resolved.
It'd be too bad, are you?
Thank you, Scott.
Well, I can tell everybody this.
Bring your readers.
I think I told everybody
There you go.
2 weeks ago that when Cliff was
Okay, raise your right hand and
fun stuff to do.
Board of Officers, North Dakota County Brown Heights, the undersigned, do solemnly swear that I support the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and that I am faithfully and partially discharged all my duties to the office of Brown County Sheriff, sworn to God, the second day of January 2019.
2019, okay, I'll have you sign it.
Well, I'm sure as many years you've been doing that, you had that memorized, didn't you?
Isn't he funny?
You need your glasses, you just say it.
That's why I brought him.
Thanks, Scott.
Congratulations, Scott.
Congratulations.
Board, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
You guys too.
Anything else to come before the
Chris was
commission?
saying something about,
So Cliff's digging into it,
Okay.
and I think just like the 1.5 weeks he's had it, he emailed probably 7 or 8 times with big, long explanations and different ideas. He's going through all the different city ordinances, the joint jurisdiction ordinance for like Brookings, Sioux Falls. He's doing a lot of research. So much so he was emailing me on Christmas morning. He's digging into it, and we're going to know a lot more when we
Sounds
meet
great.
today. But
Okay.
he's the right man for the job. To get all that legal stuff taken care of, and then me and Scott can work with him from there.
So at some point, will there be a meeting of the public or group of people pulled together to review?
I think so. I think there has to be for us to do what we want to do, but that needs to be in cooperation. The city's going to need to cooperate with that. They're going to need to, and I think from talking when Ron Wager was here, I guess that day, he had mentioned the city wants to work with us, so hopefully they hold true to that and we get some joint board put together, but there will be public input on all that. There has to be, it's got to be noticed.
Right. 'Cause I
Now,
know-
Monday night joint meeting is the presentation portion of this Aberdeen City growth plan.
Well, and that's one of the issues, okay, they're doing their growth plan, we haven't done our, growth plan for, I don't know, 30 years, something like that. It makes sense if you're gonna have a 3-mile joint jurisdictional area, that you work on those plans together. They already started into their plan, and I think they're quite a ways along with it, almost finished, if not finished. To me, it makes sense that you kind of work those together because you want to be on the same page, but we haven't been for so long that that's the issue.
Thanks, Chris.
So who will be at the meeting next Monday night at 5:30?
we don't have to vote on anything?
No.
I'll go, just,
I'm gonna sure try to be there. I'll go.
Because I was told it's just the informational meeting, and then the vote will be the 14th. So there's a joint city-county meeting the night of the 14th also.
unless somebody else wants to go to the presentation, because I heard it once at our committee meeting. Somebody else can go.
I haven't.
You can all go, it's a joint meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next Monday?
What?
5:30.
No, the 7th.
7th and the 14th.
Okay, the joint, okay.
Yeah.
Does the county have any say in this, if it's the city's?
The city planning, no, but I think the city would be foolish to move forward with this big city plan if it's going to conflict with what the county's plan is in the joint jurisdictional area. Because it goes back to the same argument we made when Ron Wager was here, that the county still has jurisdiction there. That's the county's position. I think the city's position is the county may have relinquished that, although they can't show us the documentation where that happened in minutes. And I think they agree that they can't show us. But then they argue that there's some county ordinance that makes it sound like we relinquished it, but you can change that ordinance tomorrow if you want to, or whatever the proper notice would be. So then they lose that argument. So my whole point of all of this is the city's plan and the county's plan, try to work those together. I'm not saying this is what they're doing, because I don't know enough about their plan, I've never seen it, but I hope the city's growth plan, they haven't jumped the gun on that, and it involves a joint jurisdiction that we don't agree with.
So the 14th, would we have the opportunity to be a joint city-county do we have the opportunity to vote that day?
I believe they expect you to vote on the 14th to,
To approve their plan?
That's what
I'm not sure.
Maybe we should find that out.
I'm
So we
not
know
clear on
where
that,
we're
right?
at.
I mean,
Because
Well, if I'm
why
not
would
mistaken,
you
the
have
plan
to be there
itself's
for the
not
vote?
binding. Basically,
if they
what
don't
it is
expect
a
you to
review
vote?
process
And if they're gonna,
of an assessment of what historically has been the growth patterns and what you anticipate it will be going forward in the future. And it's also a tool that you can use for funding sources and things like that as you move forward. But with any plan, there's usually gross deviations because reality sets in as you go with it. But at least when you make those changes with opportunities that pop up. But as far as, anything in there, it may indicate in the plan, for instance, that you're going to put in fewer approaches all along 6th Avenue, for instance, and have setbacks
Yeah, I
and
would
things.
agree
But
with
those
Mike.
things all have to be done by ordinance.
Well, absolutely, I would agree with that,
After
that's why I'm not sure why.
So the plan itself's not binding, but it's a review process to say, here's where we'd like to see ourselves moving
Well, it's
forward.
not binding, but if the city
I mean, they could
spends X
determine
amount
how
on it,
they
it's
come
kind of
in.
foolish.
If the
Correct.
county supports it, just so you know, there are things in here that say, like policies, regulations, incentives, and processes that consistently represent the vision and desired character of the community. Support a requirement that land use decisions be informed by this Aberdeen Growth Plan, and revise your ordinances to effectively implement this plan. So you're saying that you agree with the plan and that we're going to change what we do based on this. So I think it's really important that we
Absolutely.
know what's in it and support it.
We know
I
whether or
think
not
it's
we're gonna be
important to know what's
expected to
in it,
vote or
but I'm
not,
not sure
too.
you have to vote on it, I just
Sure.
don't know where that ever would come from.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, I have one quick thing. If you guys want to give some thought to, last week we authorized advertising for 2 houses that are still occupied here in Aberdeen and a bare lot in Hecla. We've been looking, this is where the lot is, if you want to look and pass it around. About 2 years ago, we were looking for a spot to move the dumpsters because some of the trash was... In Hecla, I'm sorry. Because some of the trash was blowing into a residence. They're elderly and it was just, we weren't being very good neighbors. Well, they moved the dumpsters, but they're still kind of in a spot in the highway shop where Dirk doesn't really want them there. So he's wondering, and maybe this would be a good spot that we put up some fence and move the dumpsters there. If not, he said it would be a good spot to stockpile some of his stuff, so just give it some thought. I don't know what the process is now that we've already advertised it, but there might be a way that we can pull it back if it's something that we could...
It'll just have no sale.
And the assessed value is very low.
Yeah, it was 500 minimum. I don't know what the assess was, but that's what we were asking for.
Literally across the road
We have
from
the
the
right to
county
accept or
shop.
reject the bid, I would imagine.
It's an open auction.
So I don't know if we have to do something about that quickly, or if that's something that we need to pull that back, or...
No, at the auction, it's an open
Yeah.
auction,
Okay.
and I just won't ask for bids.
Ask for
I'll say
bids.
this
Okay.
property is no longer available.
Taking it out.
I don't think the auction's till, what, the 14th or something? So if you
10
have
o'clock,
any-
January
Maybe we
14th.
need
Are the
to
people out of the houses yet?
This one's not a house.
Oh,
The
but I mean,
Aberdeen one.
these other ones. Because
No,
there were
they're not.
two different houses where people were living in it yet. Before you have an auction, they need to be evicted.
I think Gary has...
He's still working on it, I know.
They work.
So we can't sell those houses that we authorized to advertise.
But we should probably get the bare lot I'm talking about on the agenda for next week.
And we'll make sure we have an update for the next meeting.
So, heck of a lot we should put on the agenda.
Who was that, Gary, that was doing it?
Nick.
Fishnet?
Yeah.
So you visit with Mike about it, he knows.
Mike hasn't got back to me, just Dirk. We emailed them both and forwarded it to him, but...
Has there been any progress on the dumpster site down on the south side of town?
I gotta make a phone call here after the first year. I've got to talk to, find out if there's another option available for us.
I think we'll have a visit here by some folks down in that part too, eventually.
So it was my understanding that we were supposed to proceed with our tax deed procedure, and our 180 days was up on these 4 parcels. So we set the date of the auction and authorized the advertising.
I have no idea. And I
Okay.
have no idea because we've hired an attorney to handle all of that, just as we've done in the past, so I don't know.
Oh, these parcels weren't turned over to Vic?
It's my understanding Vic's supposed to be having...
He's the one that was doing the letter to the residents and things, so he's been working on that for a while.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Oh, we were not aware of that.
These are different than the ones we're selling.
The houses
They're
that
the
the people
same.
live in, that we've been talking about, my understanding is it was a long time ago that
Yeah.
they were supposed to be.
Been quite a
Supposed
while.
to be
Yeah,
evicted.
it's been quite a while.
And they haven't been, as far as I know.
So do we need the sheriff over there?
You gotta go through the eviction process.
Right.
Oh, what, that
That's what
hasn't
Vic
been
was
done.
hired to do. I don't know
Right.
what's going on.
And, yeah, and I asked him before last meetings already, I haven't heard back from him yet, so.
So why wasn't anything said when the tax deed came through to get authorized to
This
advertise?
has come up, I think, in several meetings.
Yeah.
At least my understanding, every time it does, I've just assumed Vic is handling it. If you want to authorize my office to have 5 or 6 more deputies, I'll start doing all of that stuff, but we can't do it. We just,
I understand
Why-
that, but when that was brought up last meeting, why was it approved to get these all? Why
because you
was
can
it
go
approved?
forward with the tax deed, I presume, as long as the people get evicted like we thought they are. I don't know,
But
I
the
don't know anything about
tax
it
deed
there,
we
so I
sent
don't
was
know.
the 14th, so if they're not evicted, we can't sell them.
That would be correct, just like this property that's up for sale, that if they don't want to sell it, they can
You'll
say
have
they're
to
not
pull it
taking
back.
bids. And they'd have to pull it back if these people aren't properly evicted, because you can't sell it unless the courts say they're evicted. You're
Sometimes
right.
the eviction notice can take months. It's
Absolutely.
not as easy as just
Right.
sending a letter out and having them leave. I mean, you got the winter involved and all
They
the
gotta
things,
have
that-
their
they got a
notice.
lot of
So why
guidelines
wasn't
they have to
it, why
follow.
wasn't it brought up?
Yeah.
My guess is because stuff goes through this agenda every time and you never know what the property is, you don't know what's going on with it, and that's one of them. I mean, if somebody had told me these people haven't been evicted yet and it's set for 2 weeks out, it would have been a good point to
Well,
say, hey,
on that
don't
sheet
sell
that
this
I
property.
gave you, I put on there it's occupied.
So is Vic aware of the date?
Approved last week.
He's not aware of the auction.
I don't either.
And
I don't come
blame
here,
you.
I don't come here and look through these books and know
No, I
everything.
know, I know.
So the question of why wasn't that brought up, I don't know. Max?
It's been brought up for months, so I don't know how you all didn't know that, I guess.
So we just need to pull it off,
Yeah.
pull it
Yeah,
back and
I guess.
wait for the eviction process.
Can we sell them with the property?
You'd almost be, have to cancel the sale, but if you've got one you want to pull out and two there's only
Easy, right?
leasing one house, and that he had talked about selling property.
Where in the eviction process are we? Have we started it?
I have no
That's
idea.
it. He supposedly sent out letters, and I don't know how long that's gonna take after that.
Can you verify that with
this
him
long.
today?
Yeah,
Let me tell you
I'll
that.
try and call him again today. I
Figure out
tried
where
calling
he's
him
at.
before the last
Is it
one.
possible that the process itself has already been completed and it's just the
I don't think
physical
so.
removal?
I don't
Why
believe
can't we go
so.
back to the
I don't
old
believe
tax
so.
deed process according to state law?
What was that?
That we keep the property for 180 days, we authorize the auction, hold the auction, and get the property back on the tax rolls. But now you're doing quiet title on all of them.
That was the
There's
commission's
people-
choice.
Yeah, there's people living in the residence.
But that's happened all before, Chris. I mean, that's not, we've just...
We've evicted them before.
And we went through
The
all of
only
that in
time
the
we-
meeting when you decided to go forward with quiet title. I mean, I don't know.
But if you're quieting title, why are you selling them that way?
I didn't realize these were being on the quiet title. The only one I was aware of was the property
I
in
think
Groton.
Nancy had mentioned before that it'd be worth more money if you quiet the title. I think that was.
That's what always,
If I
that's
recall.
what it's always been,
No, it
yeah.
hasn't,
Well,
Gary. We
no,
have
no,
not, we have not gone
since
through.
they
The
made
only
that
one-
change.
Only one we made the change was the Richmond
Was
Way
Grieven.
house.
Yes.
And the one up on State Street.
That was after
That was
Grieven.
after they've made this decision. It's been going that way since.
I think that was the reason they decided the quiet title is because you'd get more money for the property, presumably. But I don't know. I don't know why you did it.
I think something that would probably help us out a bunch is whenever Vic sends a letter out to copy us on it. I mean, we sit here, we don't have
I
any notice
agree.
of it. I think he needs to,
Well, I
when he
can-
sends something out, he needs
Do
to
we
send
plan
us
on
a copy.
going into executive session at all? Do we? plan
No.
on- We
I
can
don't
talk
know.
about it at a different time.
Maybe
I
call him
have,
today
I have
and
some
hear
ideas
that.
on that, but I don't
Okay.
think we have to go into that.
Sheila, do you have something
Yes.
additional?
Sarah and I just got into a tax problem already. What is the plan? Who helps us during the day with these tax issues without Joe here? What's your decision? What are we supposed to do? I mean, we just, no, he doesn't know the system. I mean, the programmer was,
Well, Joe's not here, so Paul's our only option.
so he has to do it. He
Well,
has to go-
Joe's not here, so Paul's our only option. That's,
Because he told her he didn't know how to do it.
we'll have to
Still
work,
working part-time,
we'll
so.
have to work with Paul, to work with Joe to figure it out, because Joe's gone.
Right, and we need help
Yeah.
from 8 to 5.
Well, you better let us know, or you better let someone know if Paul isn't going to help you or isn't able to help you, because that puts you folks in a heck of a position.
Yes, 'cause
If
we
you
got
don't get
customers to
the
face
job
along with our
done,
work.
then this commission's got a responsibility to get somebody over there that can get the job done. So just to say that Paul is going to do it, and if he can't or won't or refuses or whatever, then there's some other action needs to be taken. It's that simple.
Yeah, because we have to have help. You know, we're stuck. Who do we
So
go
you
to?
you gotta let somebody
Okay,
know
well,
I'll talk to
that
him after the
if he doesn't get on it and help you and resolve it, then there needs to be some action taken, because you can't be left hanging with it either.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else coming for the commission?
So who's gonna follow up with Paul
I'll
to
talk
make
to
sure we
Paul.
have that
I'll
covered?
talk to Dick.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's the same point with quiet title too. I mean, if it's not getting, we gotta figure out, if we're not getting a response of what's going on, we gotta move on and do something.
Yeah, and I contact him literally every couple of weeks to make sure that he's still moving.
We had a copy of what was being done. That would help a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, give us a copy, give us something what's been done, so that the commission knows that there's been some action. I mean, just always talk, hearsay, we gotta have something that shows it.
Anything else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Sutton, second by Pfeiffer to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.